Chapter 112. First update. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes, gifts, subscriptions. Please, brothers and sisters. Hall Master, don't worry. I, Dongfang Jian, am definitely not inferior to her. Dongfang Jian said proudly. His words didn't have the slightest respect for Dongfang Ting, and even contained hatred. TSK. You want to surpass my aunt with that talent of yours? Dream on. Don't throw away your life. Dongfang Jun mocked in disdain. Now isn't the time for you to bicker. The hall master's expression changed slightly, obviously dissatisfied with the two of them. He continued, this is also the last chance for the three of you. So, unlike them, you must fight. With the strength of the three of you, it's not like you don't have a chance. Alright, after entering Dragon Lake City, don't go anywhere. Adjust yourselves to your best condition and fight for the honor of our Jinyuan kingdom. Aya, isn't this Brother Zhao? Not bad, there are actually over 30 people who meet the requirements. Compared to our Deqian kingdom, you are only 10 or so people less. When you return, don't be too little, ha. When Qin Hao and the rest followed the hall master into a vast and magnificent palace, the deputy hall master of the new Excellence Hall of the Deqian Kingdom, who was bringing in the registration information of the disciples, spoke to the hall master Zhao Xingqian with a smile when he saw Qin Hao and the rest. His words were filled with ridicule. Quality is more important than quantity. I'm afraid you won't even have half of them when you return. The new show hall master Zhao Xingqian's expression didn't change in the slightest as he said indifferently. The disciples of both sides sized each other up and unrestrainedly emitted their perception to check each other's cultivation. Their expressions were arrogant as they opposed each other with equal harshness. Zhao Yunfei, who was emitting a dense killing intent, directly locked his gaze onto the crown prince of the Deqian kingdom, Yi Mingho. The killing intent on his body suddenly soared countless times and spread out as if it was material. Yi Mingho's expression was indifferent as the corners of his mouth curled up into a slight smile. He was filled with disdain as he gave Zhao Yunfei a thumbs down before turning his gaze towards the three experts, Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi. His meaning was obvious. His target wasn't a nobody like Zhao Yunfei, the competition hadn't started, but the smell of gunpowder filled the air. After Qin Hao's gaze slowly swept over the other side's more than 40 disciples, he was slightly surprised. The other side had more than 40 people. Not only did they far outnumber the Jinyuan kingdom, but their overall strength was also stronger than theirs. Fortunately, the top experts were equally matched. Really? Forgive this old man's poor eyesight, but I really can't see what's so good about you, haha. I'm getting old, so it's inevitable that my vision is blurry. When the results are out, I think you will naturally understand. Haha. Zhao Xingqian's voice was still indifferent, but the words he said caused the old man's expression to change slightly. I hope your disciple is as good as your mouth. Otherwise, it won't be challenging at all. Let's go. The old man coldly snorted and no longer acted like a hero. Seeing that the disciples had finished registering, he left in a huff. Soon, Qin Hao and the others also filled in their information and followed the attendants who emitted powerful auras into the courtyard that had been arranged for them. Although it was a side courtyard, it was not inferior to a small manor. In addition to the high-class rooms, there was a meeting hall, a martial arts practice field, and everything else. Even the maidservants who served everyone were all good-looking and pleasing to the eye. After stepping into the side courtyard, Hall Master Zhao Xingqian gathered everyone in the spacious and luxurious meeting hall. You have seen the situation just now. In the previous Rising Star ranking competition of the 8 nations, for the top 10 spots, everyone fought until blood flowed. In every battle, they would think of ways to cripple or even kill the opponent's disciple. It can be said to be extremely dangerous. Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi have hopes of competing for the 100 Empire ranking. Therefore, you must fight, even if you have to pay with your lives. Without this kind of desperate fighting spirit, it will only weaken your battle strength. However, the others must protect themselves. If you realize that you can't defeat your opponent, admit defeat at the appropriate time. Otherwise, you may die here. Of course, if your opponent is not as good as you, don't hold back. Kill. Understand? Understood. Also, Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Yunfei, and Helian Wuzi. The four of you are young and have high cultivations. The opponent will definitely kill you by hook or by crook. The important thing for you is to participate this time. There will be more opportunities in the future, so don't be extra careful. Moue, you too. Although your cultivation is slightly lower, you are already a swordsman. The opponent will definitely not let you off. Also, Fang Qing, Lu Yunfeng, and Zhuge Qingyun will become the main targets. Now, you must realize the cruelty of the Rising Star competition. This is not our new show hall's grand competition. Alright. Go and choose your own room to cultivate. You must adjust yourself to your best condition. Yes. Chen Hao and the others might have high fighting spirit, but they knew that the upcoming battle would be extremely dangerous. Therefore, even Chen Hao didn't dare to be careless. Because he wasn't just here to participate. The next Rising Star competition would be 2 years later. 2 years was too long. Huff, Chen Hao, Helian Wuzi, Moue, Fang Qing, Lu Yunfeng, and the alluring senior sister Yunfian, who stuck close to them, chose a room that was adjacent to each other. After entering the room alone, they directly sat down cross-legged in the cultivation room and let out a long sigh of relief. His eyes that flickered with intense fighting spirit and radiance slowly closed as he entered the cultivation state. 3 days later, he would begin the real battle. A battle without any scruples. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. A battle where the strong preyed on the weak. There were no restrictions, no scruples. There was only the simplest and most direct battle. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. A wisp of the fiery red morning sun slowly rose from the east. The core training grounds of the Empire's new Excellence Hall in the east, west, north, and south regions of Dragon Lake City were already filled with dense crowds of people. These people were all people of the Xuanwu Empire who were either rich or noble, and had respected statuses. Moreover, a large portion of them had dual identities. They were important figures of the Xuanwu Empire, but their origins were from various kingdoms. Therefore, they had become spectators of the new talent ranking preliminaries of the vassal kingdoms. The 32 vassal kingdoms were divided into 4 groups. The top 10 of each group would advance to the true new talent ranking competition of the Xuanwu Empire. Little junior brother, do your best. Senior sister has high hopes for you. Although the top 10 is a little difficult, the top 3 of the group is definitely not a problem. When the hall master Zhao Xingchen, the 2 vice hall masters, and Huang Qi led Chen Hao and the other disciples into the incomparably enormous practice grounds, the enchanting senior sister Yunfian moved closer to Chen Hao's ear and whispered in a low voice. It caused Chen Hao's ear to itch, but he had no way to deal with this enthusiastic senior sister. Big sister Fian, junior brother Chen Hao's participation is important this time. Don't use your honey trap to encourage him. If an accident were to happen, it would be bad. Fang Qing, who was at the side, immediately pulled Yunfian and said. However, Yunfian smiled sweetly and stared at Fang Qing. She said confidently, "Little girl, you don't understand. Little junior brother isn't as simple as you think. Do you dare to make a bet with big sister? Big sister will bet that little junior brother can enter the top 3 of the group." Really? Fang Qing asked with a little surprise. She understood Yunfian very well. Her judgment of people was definitely many times more accurate than ordinary people. No one had ever won a bet with her. Using grandfather's words, Yunfian was a little shrew. What do you think? I know you don't dare to bet. Just wait and see, hee hee. Yunfian raised her charming chin and smiled with a trace of delight. Chen Hao shrugged and could only obediently shut his mouth. He didn't know what Yunfian saw that made her so certain that he could enter the top 3 of the group. However, Chen Hao couldn't refute because his goal was higher. Even at this moment, he wasn't sure if he could do it. However, he would do his best and even expose some of his trump cards. Everyone, today's Rising Star preliminaries will officially begin. In this division, the Qian Kingdom has 48 contestants, the Dian Kingdom has 39 contestants. Jinyuan Kingdom has 35 contestants, a total of 298 contestants. They will be divided into 10 groups. According to the information, the designated number 1 experts of the 8 kingdoms will be divided into groups 1 to 8. The other contestants will draw lots to determine their groups. Let's start according to the order of the kingdoms we just pointed out. At the end of the 7-hour period, the head of the arbitration team announced in a vigorous voice without the slightest bit of hesitation. There were a total of 292 numbers in the lottery box. Groups 1 to 8 had 29 numbers each, while groups 9 and 10 had 30 numbers each. After everyone had drawn lots, there would be 2 empty numbers left. It was very fair. The first place of each group would advance to the top 10 and obtain the qualifications for the Rising Star preliminaries. The members of the arbitration team were the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters of the 8 Kingdoms' new show hall. The head of the arbitration team was an expert appointed by Xuanwu Kingdom. The designated number 1 expert of Jinyuan Kingdom was Dongfang Jian. This was also the result of the previous year-end competition. Dongfang Jian narrowly defeated Zhao Yunlong and Bai Lishi and obtained the position of chief disciple of the new show hall. The lottery ended very quickly. Chen Hao didn't draw the 9th and 10th groups that didn't have any seated experts. He was in the 4th group. Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui actually drew the same group, the 9th group. Number 23 of the 4th group. Luckily, otherwise, senior sister might have guessed wrongly. After seeing the number in Chen Hao's hand, Yunfian let out a sigh of relief. Everyone already knew the rules of the lottery and the order of the competition. The lot drawn had a group and sequence number. It could directly determine the order of appearance and their opponents. First group, Yi Mingho from the Great Qian Kingdom and Zhuge Qingyun from the Jinyuan Kingdom, please come up. When the results of the lottery came out, the referee didn't delay and stood on the incomparably huge stage as he shouted loudly. What? Yi Mingho is actually the chief disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom? How is this possible? How old is he? Could it be because of the crown prince's status? That's not possible. After all, this is a real competition, and the Great Qian Kingdom wouldn't treat it as a game. It seems like Yi Mingho's combat strength is really strong. This disciple from the Jinyuan Kingdom is going to suffer. The usually calm and indifferent Zhuge Qingyun had an unsightly expression. When he saw the number in his hand, he had the urge to vomit blood. Number 2 of the first group meant that he would be the first to go up on stage. Furthermore, his opponent was a seated contestant from the strongest of the 8 kingdoms, the Great Qian Kingdom. This meant that he basically only had one chance to go up on stage in this rookie selection competition. Anyone would be depressed if they were in his position. My brothers and sisters, monthly votes, please. If you don't have monthly votes, please give me a recommendation vote. It's a new week, and it's a little boring. Today, the Dark Mountain will still fight hard. Please, everyone, give me some encouragement and stimulation. Please. Chapter 113. Update 2, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. My monthly votes are in imminent danger. I sincerely request my brothers and sisters to lend a helping hand to Dark Mountain. I can't thank you enough. Friends without monthly votes, can you give me a recommendation vote? Thanks. At the participant seating area of the Great Qian Kingdom, Yi Mingho took a step forward and left behind an afterimage as he appeared in the center of the 200 feet wide giant stage. The afterimage seemed to be standing on the same spot, but Yi Mingho's real body was already standing proudly in the center of the stage. It could be seen how fast his speed was. Just this small move that he revealed made many self-proclaimed geniuses feel astonished. Yi Mingho, who wasn't even 16 years old, had a handsome appearance with red lips and white teeth. His forehead was wider than an ordinary person's, and his eyes were as sharp as a sword as he emitted a proud and confident radiance. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and stood with his hands behind his back. Naturally, he gave off the aura of a king that stood above others and looked down on the world. This kid has outstanding talent and is definitely not someone ordinary. To become the head disciple of the great Qian kingdom at such a young age, he must be extraordinary. That's right. That fulgurating shadows movement technique earlier isn't simple. It seems like there's no doubt that he will obtain first place in the first group. At the edge of the rostrum, a few expert referees spoke softly. Be careful. If there's a need, immediately admit defeat. The gatekeeper, eldest uncle Huangqi, took on the role of the instructor and patted Zhuge Qingyun, who had an unsightly expression, as he spoke. N. Zhuge Qingyun replied as his eyes flashed with a trace of radiance as he jumped onto the stage. Although he knew that he would lose and that he might encounter a life-threatening situation, no one was willing to accept the humiliation of surrendering without a fight. Especially since this was the first match of the tournament. When the referee saw that the two of them were in position, he immediately announced the start of the match. Boom! Zhuge Qingyun acted as though he was facing a great enemy as he instantly activated his protective aura and unsheathed his sword. Humph! You still dare to come up and fight? Your courage is commendable. Get lost. Yi Mingho spoke in a domineering manner. The moment he finished speaking, he took a step forward and actually sent out a palm strike from a distance of 300 feet. Even the air didn't have any ripples, but when most of the disciples with lower cultivation were astonished, a loud boom exploded in front of Zhuge Qingyun. Ah! A miserable shriek was accompanied by a mouthful of blood. Zhuge Qingyun didn't even have the time to swing his sword and was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. At this moment, Yun Mingho, who had unleashed a light palm strike, was slowly fading away. That was only an afterimage. One move, just one move. From start to finish, no one had seen Yi Mingho's energy fluctuations, but the battle had already ended. The outcome of the match was expected, but the process was unexpected. Zhuge Qingyun's internal organs were severely injured, and he was only left with half a breath. Huang Qi had a gloomy expression as he caught Zhuge Qingyun and carried him back to the Zhenyuan Kingdom's region. After feeding him a dark green recuperation elixir, Huang Qi slowly channeled energy to help him recuperate. At the same time, he looked at the astonished disciples and said, "All of you have witnessed the cruelty of the rookie competition. This is a true battle. No one from the opposing faction will show mercy." Zhuge Qingyun's reaction was rather fast and luckily managed to preserve his life. Hall Master has already emphasized what should be emphasized, but what this old man wants to say is that even though it is cruel, if you are frightened before the battle even starts, then you will never be able to make a name for yourselves. Think about it carefully. After a brief treatment, Huang Qi handed Zhuge Qingyun over to the Xuanwu Empire's specially appointed attendant and sent him back to his residence to recuperate. Immediately after, the second groups number 1 and number 2 went up, and the competition wasn't affected at all. Huang Qi acted as the commentator and explained the characteristics of the various absolute arts while fighting on the stage. Of course, he also explained the horrifying absolute art that Yun Mingho had just executed. The shifting shadows was a grade 13 agility martial technique. When cultivated to the highest realm, the speed would be astonishing and like a ghost. It could leave behind 18 lifelike afterimages to confuse the opponent and prevent them from distinguishing the real from the fake. Yun Mingho might have only left behind an afterimage, but based on the speed that Yun Mingho displayed, Huang Qi determined that Yun Mingho must have cultivated the shifting shadows to the phenomenal stage. The first 8 matches were astonishingly fast. The 8 chief disciples of the various empires didn't encounter any formidable opponents and ended the battle in at least 1 move and at most 3 moves. As for the opponents, 1 died, 5 were severely injured, and 2 admitted defeat. Compared to the dead disciple, the severely injured Zhuge Qingyun was still considered lucky. Yunfian and Helian Wuzi sat on the left and right of Chen Hao at the participants' seating area. When Huang Qi was explaining, Yunfian would pause for a moment. When Huang Qi didn't speak, Yunfian would explain to Chen Hao and the others in a soft voice. Yunfian was only a grade 4E emperor. Her cultivation might not be comparable to Chen Hao, but her knowledge was far from what Chen Hao could compare with. Especially the weapons and absolute arts of the participants. She had a unique understanding of them, which allowed Chen Hao and the others to benefit greatly. After 8 consecutive matches, because the disparity in strength wasn't that great, the matches became more exciting. From the very beginning, everyone displayed their absolute arts and fought with their lives on the line. No one was willing to waste time and energy because this was the elimination round and it would continue forever. This would continue until the final victor was decided. The disciples at the front of the sequence all appeared. With the disparity in strength of the Zhenyuan kingdom, there were more victories than losses. Of the 18 people that appeared, only Zhao Yunlong, Zhao Yunfei, Dongfang Jun, and Bai Lixi won. As for the other 14 people, they were all defeated. 4 died and 10 were seriously injured and unconscious. A bitter aura and a dense smell of blood filled the entire martial practice field. Many of the disciples that had yet to go on stage all had grave expressions on their faces. 4th group, number 17 Jingyun Kingdom's Ren Miao Miao and number 18 Zhenyuan Kingdom's Fang Qing, please come on stage. The referee's loud and clear voice resonated through the entire martial practice field. Ren Miao Miao. Huang Qi took a glance at the information of the participating disciples in his hand and his expression changed slightly. He looked at Fang Qing and said, Fang Qing, be careful. Do not force yourself. If necessary, immediately admit defeat. That Ren Miao Miao is a rank 6 martial emperor. She is most definitely a disciple of the Jingyun Kingdom's number 1 family, the Ran family. Her battle power cannot be looked down upon. Although your battle power is very strong as a rank 3 martial emperor, it is not very possible for you to surpass 3 levels of cultivation to defeat her. Furthermore, she will definitely do everything she can to kill you. Senior sister, be careful. Chen Hao and Helian Wuzi also said in a low voice. The taciturn Moue only used his eyes that did not know how to speak to express his concern. Lil Qing, you must not force yourself. Now is not the time for you to stand out. Understand? Yunfian said. Amen. Fang Qing's misty eyes shone with a radiant light. Her body slowly rose into the air and landed on the stage. Fang Qing had an elegant and refined temperament. She had jade-like bones and icy skin. Her figure was very graceful. Furthermore, her unique aura gave her a unique charm. Especially her hazy eyes that seemed to be covered with a faint mist, they were very alluring. She could definitely be considered to be a first-rate beauty. As for Fang Qing's opponent, the rank 6 martial emperor Ran Miao Miao, she was also an exceptionally beautiful young woman. When the 2 great beauties appeared on the stage at the same time, it caused a breath of fresh air to be injected into the martial practice ground that was filled with the stench of blood. The eyes of many people started to shine. Fang Qing had a serious expression on her face. As for Ran Miao Miao, the corners of her mouth rose into a faint and enchanting smile. Merely, the battle intent and cold aura in her eyes were something that anyone could see. Match, begin. Following the loud shout from the referee, a pure and boundless spirit power shone from the center of Fang Qing's brows. It formed layers upon layers of spirit power several meters around her. She did not seek to win, she only sought not to make any mistakes. Even though her opponent was only a rank 6 martial emperor, she was a disciple of Jingyun Empire's number 1 clan. With a difference of 3 levels of cultivation between them, even Fang Qing herself knew that she had no chance of victory. This battle could only be considered as a form of tempering. Whoosh! 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 To everyone's surprise, Ran Miao Miao actually flicked her wrist and shot out countless resplendent sword rays. In an instant, the area 10 meters around Fang Qing was completely covered by sword rays. Even more shockingly, Ran Miao Miao's sword rays seemed to have formed an enormous sword net of light that sealed off all of Fang Qing's escape routes. The boundless origin energy contained within the sword rays had formed something similar to a protective aura. Not good. Huang Qi's expression immediately changed. He stood up in shock. In practically an instant, Huang Qi discovered his opponent's intention. Yunfian's expression also changed. A trace of fear immediately flashed through her charming eyes. So ruthless. Huang Qi and Yunfian said at practically the same time. At the beginning, Qin Hao was stunned. However, after an instant, his expression turned cold. His sharp and powerful perception spread over. Qin Hao clearly sensed that at this moment, his opponent's sword rays that contained boundless origin energy seemed to have formed a barrier around Fang Qing's body. Even if Fang Qing wanted to admit defeat, she would likely be drowned by the rumbling sounds of the explosion. Similarly, no one could see Fang Qing's movements. Unable to survive. In her nervousness, Yunfian involuntarily grabbed onto Qin Hao's arm. Fang Qing was her master Fang Yuan's most beloved granddaughter. If she were to die in battle, however, there was no one who could help Fang Qing right now. Whether or not she could escape would depend on herself. No one had expected that Ran Miao Miao, who was only a rank 6 martial emperor, would be so powerful. Meteor sword. Bang! Ran Miao Miao took a step forward and fused with her sword. A resplendent blue light flashed through the sky like a shooting star. In a flash, she rushed into the sword net. In the air, she was swinging her sword non-stop. Boom! 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 Within 30 meters of Fang Qing, rocks were flying, dust was billowing, and sword rays were dazzling. However, Ran Miao Miao's sword was like a ferocious machine gun. Fang Qing, who was surrounded by sword rays, pushed her mental strength to the limit. The space between her eyebrows shined brightly and her palms, which were filled with mental strength, madly clapped. She had never been in such a dangerous situation of being on the verge of death. Not to mention that the judge would not be able to hear her if she were to admit defeat, she would not even have the time to shout. Likely, by the time she shouted, her heart would have already been pierced by 10,000 swords. Puff! At this moment of imminent peril, Fang Qing's misty eyes shone with determination. A thin and cold blue light quickly flew out from her storage ring. It was actually a 3-inch-long needle-shaped object made of special materials. Fang Qing clenched her 3 fingers and clenched her teeth. With a puff, it pierced into her own head. Ah! A piercing pain that came from the depths of her soul caused Fang Qing to let out an earth-shattering scream. Her scream was filled with boundless pain and mournfulness. Lil Qing! Yunfian immediately cried out in fear. Huang Qi's expression changed greatly. Fang Qing's old partner, Lu Yunfeng, had an even paler complexion. His expression was terrifyingly sinister and he was gnashing his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Practically everyone thought that Fang Qing had already been killed. Second update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. I beg everyone. Monthly votes for new books are very important. Dark Mountain True Heart urgently needs them. Furthermore, our recommendation votes are truly too shabby. I beg everyone to click on the recommendation button after reading it. Thank you. If you like this novel, I welcome you to come to Qidian. Chapter 114. Third update. Pitiful, with only 5 monthly votes and less than 200 recommendation votes. Crying. Dear friends, is this all we have? Don't hesitate anymore. Vote for Dark Mountain. This is the source of Dark Mountain's motivation. Everyone should know that Dark Mountain is very, very thin-skinned. Every day, he would put his face in his pocket with every chapter. He would shamelessly beg for monthly votes, recommendations, rewards, subscriptions. You can imagine just how important this was to Dark Mountain. Really, this is the source of Dark Mountain's motivation. Brothers and sisters, O God, give Dark Mountain passion, peng 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 peng. The moment Fang Qing screamed, the barrier formed by the powerful sword net suddenly let out a dense and terrifying explosion sound. It exploded in all directions, and an earth-shattering spiritual pressure spread out in all directions like a flash flood. Fang Qing appeared in front of everyone's eyes, her white robe fluttering in the wind, and her beautiful hair fluttering in the wind. Her originally elegant and refined little face was now red, and even her eyes were shining with a crimson light. Go to hell. Ran Miao Miao, who had become one with her sword, was only stopped for a moment. She once again advanced, and with a shout, she stabbed out with her sword. The brilliant sword light was incomparably swift and fierce. Fang Qing, who had just broken through the sword net, suffered a soul-tearing pain. She didn't have time to think. She slapped out with her palm towards the sword light that was already in front of her chest. At the same time, she abruptly activated her spiritual power and used all her strength to explosively retreat. Peng! Pooh! An arrow of blood dyed the sky red, and Fang Qing was sent flying out of the ring. Consider yourself lucky. Ran Miao Miao wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her mouth and said viciously. Fang Qing, who was a third-stage intent emperor, was only 18 years old. This kind of genius disciple was definitely a target that all the opposing forces wanted to kill. Killing one of them would reduce the opponent's strength in the future rookie competition. When she saw Fang Qing's information, Ran Miao Miao had already determined that Fang Qing would die. But she didn't expect that Fang Qing would use some kind of secret technique to increase her strength by 1-fold. She forcefully swung her sword away, and only heavily injured her shoulder. She used the force to explosively retreat, avoiding her fatal attack. Shao Qing. When Huang Qi was about to make a move, Yunfian and Lu Yunfeng had already leaped out. They turned into a ray of light and directly caught the severely injured Fang Qing. Qin Hao, Helian Wuzi, and Mo Yue also quickly came to Fang Qing's side. Without saying a word, Yun Fei Yen blocked Huang Qi's healing pill and directly took out a crystal clear, dark green, jujube-sized pill. It was obviously several times higher grade than Huang Qi's and stuffed it into Fang Qing's mouth. At the same time, she covered Fang Qing with her body and crushed a white pill into powder before applying it to Fang Qing's injured shoulder. The red light in Fang Qing's eyes gradually disappeared. She slowly closed her eyes and fell into a coma. She's fine, don't worry. Yunfian held Fang Qing in her arms and said to the crowd. After that, her slender, jade-like hand gently touched Fang Qing's head with a slight tremble. With a hiss, she pulled out the 3-inch-long needle at lightning speed. Helian Wuzi and Mo Yue were dumbstruck and shocked. Little junior brother, you're in the same group as Shao Qing. When you encounter that woman, you must be careful. Shao Qing is a peak rank 3 intent emperor. If she didn't use the golden needle's soul-piercing technique, I'm afraid that she would have already. Yunfian looked at Qin Hao and said with a serious expression. Qin Hao frowned slightly. The golden needle's soul-piercing technique is a secret technique that master possesses. You haven't started cultivating it yet. Thus, I haven't taught it to you yet. It's extremely powerful and can instantly increase your strength by 2 ranks. However, after using it, there will be a very serious backlash. Your divine soul will be injured and you won't be able to recover without half a year's time. It can only be used in a life and death situation. Shao Qing's attack is definitely comparable to that of a rank 5 intent emperor. Without the cultivation of a rank 7 martial emperor, it's impossible to injure a rank 5 intent emperor. Thus, you must be careful. Qin Hao took a glance at Fang Qing's pale face and nodded. He did not say anything else. However, a trace of sharpness flashed through the depths of his black eyes. The cruel and bloody battle continued. The Zhenyuan kingdom seemed to have run into misfortune. Their strength was definitely above average among all the disciples. However, the opponents they encountered were stronger than them. Following that, several people went up to fight. Yet, not a single one of them won. Furthermore, they paid the price of another life. The others were all injured. Furthermore, the majority of them were seriously injured. It was only when Lu Yunfeng stepped onto the stage that they finally obtained a hard-won victory. Lu Yunfeng, a rank 3 in 10 emperor, managed to defeat a rank 6 martial emperor. Although he won, it was a very bitter victory. Perhaps it was because of Fang Qing's serious injury. The quiet, cultured and refined Lu Yunfeng, who had been following beside Fang Qing the entire time, seemed to have gone crazy. Especially after he found out that his opponent was from the Jinyun Empire, he immediately inserted a 3-inch long needle into his own head at the start of the battle. Jinyun Empire's rank 6 martial emperor, dead. Lu Yunfeng forced himself to walk off the stage and lost consciousness. The bitterness of the battle surpassed everyone's imagination. There were no survivors among the 8 kingdoms. Before the first round of elimination had even ended, at least 20 people had already died. The Jinyuan kingdom had the most, 5 people. Including Qin Hao, all the disciples who had yet to participate in the battle were filled with fighting spirit. The blood in their bodies was burning. Especially when they saw the corpses of their companions, their fighting spirit spread like fire. This could not be considered a competition at all. Instead, it was a fight to the death. In the 4th group, number 23 Chen Hao from the Jinyuan Kingdom and number 24 Zhang Yunshan from the Great Qian Kingdom, please step onto the stage. After a few more matches, the referee's loud and clear voice sounded. Zhang Yunshan from the Great Qian Kingdom. Huang Qi's gaze quickly scanned through the information of the disciples who had registered. He wanted to determine their cultivation so that he could warn Qin Hao. However, whoosh! The sound of air being torn apart was suddenly heard. Qin Hao had actually landed on the stage with lightning speed. This caused Huang Qi, who had only spoken a few words, to stop abruptly. Helian Wuzi, Moue, and the others who were also slightly stunned recovered and hurriedly asked, Uncle Huang, what's his cultivation? Rank 6 martial emperor. Fortunately. Huang Qi said. Oh. Helian Wuzi, Moue, and Yunfian heaved a sigh of relief. Although Qin Hao was only a rank 5 martial emperor, they all knew very well of Qin Hao's battle power. Although a rank 6 martial emperor would be a bit troublesome, it would not be a problem for Qin Hao. Furthermore, it would not be life-threatening. Use all of your strength to kill that brat. When Yi Mingho heard Qin Hao's name and saw Qin Hao's appearance, his expression immediately turned abnormally cold. A year and a half ago, if it wasn't that brat by the name of Qin Hao who had entered the remnants, who else could it be? Even if the matter from a year and a half ago hadn't happened, with Qin Hao's age and strength, he would still be a target that any country would spare no effort to kill. Yes, Crown Prince. The youngster by the name of Zhang Yunshan was filled with confidence and spoke with a cold expression. This youngster was 18 years old. He was already a rank 6 martial emperor. Although he was not an exceptional genius, he was on par with Bai Li Yan and Zhao Yunfei. Even among the Great Qian Kingdom's disciples, he was an outstanding existence. His battle power was very strong, and he was able to contend against ordinary rank 7 martial emperors. Faced with the rank 5 martial emperor Qin Hao, unless his opponent admitted defeat, he was confident that he would be able to kill him. Whoosh! A ray of light streaked across the sky. Zhang Yunshan landed in the middle of the stage. A sharp killing intent immediately filled the air. The gaze with which he looked at Qin Hao was as if he was looking at a dead object. It was incomparably domineering. Match, begin. Clang. Boom. Boom. Following the voice of the referee, Zhang Yunshan unsheathed his sword. He stomped his feet and a brilliant sword ray shot toward Qin Hao. He had increased his origin power to the pinnacle the moment he attacked. He was planning to kill Qin Hao with a single strike. However, Qin Hao did not move from his original location. With a flash of light in his hand, he took a step forward. His body suddenly turned into a blur before the eyes of the crowd. His afterimage was still standing proudly. However, the other, Chen Hao, bent his knees and bent his body. His right hand streaked across the air in a beautiful trajectory. Then, an azure ray of light suddenly shot out explosively like a polar light. Hiss! After crossing a third of the distance between the two, before Zhang Yunshan could even approach Chen Hao, his hair suddenly stood on end. His pupils shrunk and he let out a shout filled with fear and anger. Then, he abruptly brandished his sword to block the incoming attack. Ding! Boom! Poo! 3 distinctly different sounds exploded at practically the same time. After that, the crowd only saw Chen Hao making a grabbing motion in the air. Then, the azure ray of light that resembled a polar light streaked across the air and returned to his hand. As for Zhang Yunshan, who was frantically brandishing his sword, he was still rapidly approaching Chen Hao. However, after running a distance of 10 feet, a stream of blood spurted out from his throat. Thump, thump, thump. When Zhang Yunshan was about to reach Chen Hao, he fell before Chen Hao. His eyes were wide open. They were filled with anger and fear. He opened his mouth wanting to say something. However, other than the sound of his blood spurting out, he was unable to make any other sound. His pupils slowly dilated. Without giving the crowd time to gasp in shock, Chen Hao, who did not seem to have fought at all, soared into the sky with a cold expression on his face and flew back to his position. Flying daggers, he actually used flying daggers. So powerful. He had clearly blocked the attack successfully. How did he manage to hit his throat? Isn't this Chen Hao a rank 5 martial emperor? Could it be that his origin power is so much stronger than a rank 6 martial emperor's? Impossible. His control over his origin power has most definitely reached the microscopic realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have failed to block the attack. The crowd burst into an uproar. No one was not shocked. Before Chen Hao appeared, he was already a thorn in the eyes of the various empires. A 15-year-old rank 5 martial emperor. Although he was weak now, what about in the future? Who would dare to look down on him? And now, Chen Hao had killed a rank 6 martial emperor in a clean and efficient manner. It could be said that he had effortlessly killed a rank 6 martial emperor. Furthermore, he was a genius with very strong battle power. This was truly too shocking. It was not only the people from the other great kingdoms that were shocked. Even Huang Qi, Yunfian and the people from the Zhenyuan kingdom were shocked. Likely, only Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui, who knew Chen Hao the most, were a bit calmer. Not bad. For such a super genius to be able to fall by my hands, it can be said that he has died a worthy death. In the participant area of the Star Luo Kingdom, one of the 8 great kingdoms, there was a feminine youth sitting at the very front. He narrowed his eyes as he gazed at Chen Hao, who was flying down from the stage, and spoke in a soft eunuch voice. This youngster was the 4th group's seated participant, the head disciple of the Star Luo Kingdom's new show hall. Yin Fenghan, a peak rank 8 martial emperor. He was 20 years old. In the previous preliminaries of the 8 nations' new prodigy ranking, he had entered the top 10 with the cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. Although there was more or less an element of luck involved, his battle power was extremely strong. Now, 2 years later, what sort of battle power did he, a rank 8 martial emperor, possess? The 100 empire rankings was his goal. P.S. Can you give me a monthly vote or a recommendation vote? Thank you. Chapter 115. First update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you to the friends who have supported Dark Mountain in the past 2 days. I will not list them. I'm afraid that people will say that I'm making up the word count. Dark Mountain will remember this and send monthly public thanks. Thank you everyone. How is this boy? At the very end of the viewing platform, at the highest edge, were 2 youths around 18 years old. They were lazily leaning on the railing as they looked down at the stage. When Chen Hao instantly defeated his opponent, one of the youths narrowed his eyes and asked. This youth was small and skinny. He had an ordinary appearance. Although he was also wearing luxurious silver clothes, he did not seem luxurious at all. Instead, he seemed like a waiter in a hotel. His appearance, aura and clothes, he was definitely the type of person that would be drowned out in a crowd. That was because even his gaze was very ordinary. There was not the slightest trace of the aura of an expert. However, the symbol and color on his right chest proved his identity. He was the head disciple of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, one of the 5 great palaces, the White Tiger Hall. He's so. Perhaps he's on par with me 2 years ago. What's wrong? Could it be that you're interested? The other handsome youth said lazily. The symbol and color on this youth's chest made it clear that he was the head disciple of the Azure Dragon Hall. I can't say that I'm interested. His cultivation is too low. However, I would like to see how profound his flying blade technique is. The ordinary-looking youth frowned and said with narrowed eyes. Even he was unable to determine what sort of profoundness Chen Hao's stunning flying blade technique contained. You won't have the chance. The 4th group's opponent should be Yin Fenghan. He might even have the chance to become our opponent. The strength of the vassal states this time is pretty good. It seems that we will have to pay more attention to them. Ding! Ding! Boom! 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 Moue, who was at the end of the line, finally stepped onto the stage. His opponent was a rank 3 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. When that guy saw that Moue was only a rank 1 martial emperor, his confidence soared. He wanted to kill Moue with his sword. However, once he stepped onto the stage, Moue's incomparably sharp sword intent wreaked havoc. With a single move, he gained the absolute advantage. His sword strikes were extremely sharp and crafty. They were all deadly, causing his opponent to be in a completely passive state. It was only a level 9 sword skill, Heartless Sword, in the hands of a swordsman like Moue, had achieved true ruthlessness. However, even though that rank 3 martial emperor was completely suppressed, his vigorous origin energy greatly surpassed Moue's. Thus, that rank 3 martial emperor did not plan to admit defeat at all. He believed that as long as he could persist for a couple more minutes, when Moue's incomparably sharp sword techniques were used up, it would be the time for him to counterattack. But, die. Wang. Moue, who had always been weaker in terms of origin energy, suddenly narrowed his eyes. The large sword in his hand let out a short humming sound, and a bright golden light flashed out. An incomparably sharp and invincible energy appeared in Moue's sword, as fast as lightning. Puff, bang! Chu Feng's sword pierced through that rank 3 martial emperor's roar. Then, with a sudden twist, a bloody head rolled out from that rank 3 martial emperor's neck. A thick arrow of blood shot up 3 meters into the air, filling the sky with a bloody mist. Like a sword, Moue stood proudly on the stage. He took out a snow-white handkerchief and, before the gazes of the crowd, gently wiped away the blood on his large sword with a gentle and pampering gaze. In reality, after his sword pierced the throat, there would not be any blood on his sword. However, in this bitter battle, Moue used an even more cruel method. Even though he knew that his opponent would definitely die, he still cut off his opponent's head. Compared to Chen Hao's stunning blade strike, the visual shock it brought to the crowd was even greater. After gently wiping his large sword clean, Moue sheathed his sword. With an indifferent expression, he flew back to the viewing platform. When there were only 2 matches left in the first round, the number 30 Helian Wuzi of the 9th group finally appeared. Helian Wuzi was a rank 3 martial emperor. Her opponent was only a rank 2 martial emperor. Helian Wuzi did not use her 5 elements energy at all. With a palm strike, she sent her opponent flying out of the stage, seriously injuring him. The first round ended. Only Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, Bai Lishi, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Yunfei, Bai Li Yan, Chen Hao, Moue, and Helian Wuzi remained in the Zhenyuan kingdom. After a short rest of 15 minutes, the second round began. The order of appearance was still the same as before. After the second round began, the battles became even more bitter. However, the death rate decreased. The reason for that was because some disciples would directly choose to admit defeat when they encountered opponents with an enormous disparity in cultivation. In the first 8 matches, Yi Minghe, Dongfang Jian, and the other head disciples did not fight. Yet, they were able to advance to the third round. Zhao Yunlong, Bai Lishi, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Yunfei, and Bai Liyan advanced again. Bai Liyan encountered a rank 5 martial emperor with the same cultivation as him. His battle power was on par with his. Although he advanced, he was unable to participate in the next round. Zhao Yunlong and Bai Lishi were the head disciples of their respective palaces. Thus, they easily won their matches and seriously injured their opponents. That was nothing. However, Dongfang Jun and Zhao Yunfei displayed astonishing battle power in their matches. Both of them killed their rank 5 martial emperors. However, even with that being the case, both Zhao Yunfei and Dongfang Jun no longer had the arrogance they had before. This was especially true for Dongfang Jun. When he saw Qin Hao's stunning blade strike that instantly killed a rank 6 martial emperor, although he did not wish to admit it, he knew that he was no match for Qin Hao. In the fourth group, number 23 from the Zhenyuan Kingdom, Qin Hao, number 25 from the Great Peak Kingdom, Meng Fei, please step onto the stage. Number 24 had already been killed by Qin Hao. This time around, his opponent was Meng Fei, the rank 5 martial emperor. Before the start of this round, everyone was able to predict who their opponent would be. In the previous round, all the groups were consecutive matches. One person would win, and the other would be eliminated. In this round, Qin Hao's opponent was number 25 from the group below him. Right after Qin Hao stepped onto the stage, he immediately moved back. There was nothing he could do about it. His opponent had actually chosen to admit defeat. Evidently, he had been frightened by Qin Hao's stunning blade strike. Furthermore, he simply had no way to defeat it. In this round, Mo Yui and Helian Wuzi were unlucky. Mo Yui's opponent was a rank 5 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. As for Helian Wuzi, she was a rank 6 martial emperor from the Great Peak Kingdom. The disparity in cultivation was simply too enormous. Thus, under the advice of Qin Hao and Huang Qi, they directly chose to admit defeat. Otherwise, they might very well be killed by their opponents. After entering the third round, only Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, Bai Lishi, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Yunfei, and Qin Hao remained. Bai Liyan was seriously injured and was unable to participate in the battle. Only 8 people remained in each group. Among them, one person had advanced to the next round. Junior brother, your opponent this time around is Ran Miao Miao. Are you confident in winning? Yunfian took a glance at Fang Qing, who had regained consciousness with the help of top-quality healing medicinal pellets. However, her face was still pale. She turned to Qin Hao and asked. Yes, Qin Hao calmly said. Since he had already set a target for himself, there was no need for him to hide too much. After all, he would soon be seen. He, rank 8 martial emperor, allow this crown prince to end your match. Yi Minghe looked to the 2-meter-tall, majestic lion-like youngster before him. He, who was a head shorter than him, actually spoke with disdain. Enough of your superfluous words. Go ahead and attack. The majestic youngster had a serious expression. However, he was not afraid in the slightest. This was the first match of the third round. Yi Minghe's opponent was the second-ranked expert of the Chunjun Kingdom, Meng Nan. His strength was definitely not inferior to the seeded contestants. He was 22 years old. Like Dongfang Jian, Bai Lishi, and Zhao Yunlong, he had already participated in the 8-nation rookie competition twice. This was his final opportunity. Yi Minghe was only a rank 6 martial emperor. However, since he was able to become the head disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom, Meng Nan did not dare to look down on him in the slightest. Bang! Meng Nan took the initiative to attack. With a single step, a deep crater appeared on the hard rocky ground. His majestic body actually disappeared. For such a body to possess such speed, it was truly astonishing. It was as if his fist had landed on Yi Mingho's face. The wind created by the fist was vast and mighty. Yi Mingho's smile of contempt was immediately blown away by the wind created by the fist. When he was seen again, he was already 10 meters away from Meng Nan. Even his posture and expression did not change in the slightest. So fast, how could this position-shifting shadows be so powerful? This Yi Mingho is only a rank 6 martial emperor. Yet, he possesses such astonishing strength. He is most definitely a genius that only appears once every 100 years. You have the appearance of a monstrous beast. Never would I have expected that your speed would be pretty good. Unfortunately, before this crown prince, you're nothing more than a fart. As long as you can touch the corner of this crown prince's clothes, you'll win. I'll give you 10 chances. Yi Mingho crossed his arms before his chest and spoke with contempt. Yi Mingho's arrogant words caused the crowd to look at each other in dismay. Touching the corner of his clothes meant losing? No matter what, Meng Nan was a rank 8 martial emperor. This was simply undisguised contempt and humiliation. Roar! Meng Nan let out a beast-like roar. His speed abruptly increased once again. His speed was so fast that it was unimaginable. The origin power in his body had also been pushed to the pinnacle. However, the following scene caused everyone to be overwhelmed with shock. 1 bolt, 2 bolts, 3 bolts, 4 bolts, a total of 8 identical figures appeared around Meng Nan. Furthermore, it was impossible to tell if they were real or fake. 2 times, 3 times, all of the figures spoke at the same time. They were indifferently counting the number of times Meng Nan attacked. This guy has comprehended the wind attribute from the wood attribute. Chen Hao, who was staring at the stage, frowned slightly. His valiant soul perception allowed him to capture a trace of Yi Mingho's aura. The 8 figures that appeared to be unmoving were all real. That was because Yi Mingho was moving with a frightening speed. Every time he arrived at a figure, he would stop for an extremely short period of time so that the afterimage would continue to maintain his appearance. This was the secret skill, position-shifting shadows. As for the reason why he was able to do it without making any sound, it was because he had fused with the concept of wind and caused everyone to have an illusion. 7 times, 8 times, Yi Mingho's voice became more and more disdainful. Meng Nan was like a mad beast. He was using all of his strength to increase his speed unceasingly. Was he unable to even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes? Pooh! What no one expected was that when Meng Nan released his 9th pursuit, a cold light suddenly appeared like lightning when Meng Nan was about to reach one of the figures. Before most people could see what happened, Meng Nan's large body seemed to have lost control. He tumbled and spat out an arrow of blood that dyed the stage and sky red. Idiot! You really are all brawn and no brains. I told you to touch this prince's clothes, but I didn't tell you not to defend. Yi Mingho's 8 figures merged into one. His white robe was spotless as he spoke these words that made everyone's hearts turn cold. First update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please everyone, thank you very much. If you like this work, I welcome you to come to Chidian.com to give me your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 116. Thank you very much, friends, for your monthly tickets. Let us return the favor. The gap between us is very small, and we might be overtaken at any moment. That's why, we'll have to rely on our brothers and sisters. The only thing Dark Mountain can do is to do its best to write. Friends who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Many thanks. This Yi Mingho has no problem entering the top 10. Within the first group, the most promising Meng Nan was easily defeated by him. Moreover, he didn't even reveal his true strength. He is truly powerful. Fortunately, you guys aren't in the same group as him, so you don't have to worry too much. Huang Qi said to everyone. Next, the seeded players of the second and third groups also won easily. The fourth group's seeded contestant, the Star Luo Kingdom's Yin Fenghan, encountered a rank 8 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. However, to the crowd's astonishment, Yin Fenghan, who had a feminine appearance and looked like a eunuch, managed to send his opponent flying out of the stage within 3 strikes, causing him to lose consciousness. His battle prowess had risen to the same level as Yi Mingho, whose strength was unknown. Dongfang Jian encountered a rank 6 martial emperor. That rank 6 martial emperor directly admitted defeat. Soon after, Xiao Yunlong and Bai Lishi won one after another. Dongfang Jun won by a fluke and suffered light injuries, while Zhao Yunfei lost miserably and suffered heavy injuries. In this round, Qin Hao was the only one from the Zhenyuan Kingdom who hadn't participated yet. Miao Miao, are you sure? Jing Feiyang, the chief disciple of Jingyun Kingdom, asked Ran Miao Miao with concern in his eyes. Ran Miao Miao was Jing Feiyang's fiancé. Jing Feiyang was a direct descendant of the royal family of the Jingyun Kingdom. He is merely a rank 5 martial emperor. His opponent's speed and battle prowess were too weak, which was why he had succeeded. If you meet me, you will definitely lose. At the very most, his strength would be comparable to that of a rank 7 martial emperor. Although I am only a rank 6 martial emperor, my origin energy is comparable to that of a peak rank 7 martial emperor. He can control his essence energy to the smallest detail, so can I, don't worry. Besides, Ran Miao Miao's beautiful eyes shone with strong confidence. She looked at Jing Feiyang and said in a low voice, with my beauty, how much of my combat strength do you think he can unleash if I use the heavenly charm technique? You are going to use it. I was unlucky and didn't get into the 9th or 10th group. That sissy Yin Fenghan, I'm not his match. I only have 2 more battles at most. If I can kill such a super genius, it will be a great achievement. What's not to like? Alright then, let's welcome number 17 Ran Miao Miao from the Jingyun Kingdom and number 23 Chen Hao from the Zhenyuan Kingdom from the 4th group. The referee's voice rang out. Finally, it was Chen Hao's turn to take the stage again. This was the 3rd round, and Chen Hao had only fought once. If he won this time, he would be promoted to the top 4 in the group. Junior brother, be careful. The weak Fang Qing whispered. She deeply felt how terrifying Ran Miao Miao was. Although he knew that Chen Hao's battle prowess was not simple, he did not have much confidence in defeating him. Don't worry, Chen Hao said calmly. His eyes were full of confidence as he flew towards the ring. That beauty Ran Miao Miao won't admit defeat, right? How can I admit defeat? Although Ran Miao Miao is only a rank 6 martial emperor, she is a disciple of Jingyun Kingdom's number 1 clan. Did you not see the battle power she displayed in the last 2 matches? He definitely wouldn't admit defeat. It's just that it's hard to tell who's going to win. That Chen Hao isn't simple. He's only fought once so far, so I really can't tell how strong he is. That's right. However, this match should be very marvelous. Why isn't Ran Miao Miao on the stage yet? Could it be that she's really going to admit defeat? She's on the stage. Whoosh! At the moment when the crowd was spiritedly discussing and Helian Wuzi and the others were feeling nervous, Ran Miao Miao turned into a ray of light and flew towards the stage from the viewing platform. When she reached the top of the stage, her speed immediately slowed down and she gradually descended. Her beautiful hair fluttered in the wind and her white gown fluttered in the wind. To everyone's astonishment, Ran Miao Miao actually had a smile on her face. Her beautiful eyes were filled with emotion as she stared at the handsome Chen Hao with a serious expression. The gentle breeze caused Ran Miao Miao's graceful, exquisite and curvaceous body to be completely revealed. Especially her towering breasts, they were extremely alluring and flirtatious. Many disciples in the crowd were staring blankly at Ran Miao Miao. Ran Miao Miao was indeed a first-rate beauty. However, her performance in the last 2 matches was not too shocking. Yet now, with merely her appearance, she had caused many youths' heartbeats to accelerate. Her charm had simply increased exponentially. However, Chen Hao frowned slightly and his gaze became even sharper. His soul perception far exceeded that of ordinary people. Chen Hao could clearly sense a strange aura enveloping Ran Miao Miao. It was similar to his enchanting senior sister Yunfian, but there was a big difference. As for the specific difference, Chen Hao could not say. However, he knew that Yunfian's aura was innate. However, Ran Miao Miao had deliberately activated it. Are you trying to confuse me? Chen Hao stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. His handsome and delicate face immediately made people feel a strange and demonic aura. He thought disdainfully in his heart. Ran Miao Miao's expression changed slightly. The match begins. At this moment, the referee announced straightforwardly. Chen Hao's gaze had already clearly told Ran Miao Miao that her heavenly charm art had no effect at all. This made her very surprised. Therefore, when she heard the referee's words, she did not dare to hesitate at all. Her figure flashed, and like a ghost, she swayed left and right and quickly approached Chen Hao. Facing a flying dagger master, only a substitute could play to her strengths and avoid her weaknesses in close combat. If she was at a distance, she would be completely beaten. Seeing this scene, everyone thought that Chen Hao would quickly retreat and draw his dagger to maintain the best attacking distance. However, to everyone's surprise, Chen Hao, who had curled up the corners of his mouth, suddenly took a step forward instead of retreating. Come on! Meteor Sword Storm! Ran Miao Miao shouted. Seeing that the two of them were only 10 feet apart, which was the best attacking distance for her, she suddenly swung her sword. Swish! Swish! Star-shaking fist. Chen Hao's body suddenly glowed with a bright blue light, especially his arms. As the light extended from his shoulders to his arms to his fists, the color became more and more intense. His fists were crystal blue, and the color of his skin could no longer be seen. Every punch seemed to tear the space apart, creating a huge air explosion, and instantly smashing Ran Miao Miao's sword light. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly changed the finger-guessing game into a palm, and his left hand slapped out. Billowing smoke and biting cold instantly covered a radius of more than 10 feet. Everyone, including the referee, could not see the two figures at all. Boom! 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 The dense and terrifying explosion caused countless gravel to fly out in all directions. Dust and smoke billowed and hazy. What was even more shocking was that the icy cold aura seemed to have frozen the air around the entire arena, forcibly creating pieces of frost and snow. Giving her a taste of her own medicine. Seeing this scene, countless people widened their eyes in shock, especially Fang Qing and her companions. It should be noted that Ran Miao Miao had used the same method to severely injure Fang Qing. If Fang Qing had not used a secret method, she would have been killed at this moment. And now, Chen Hao had also blocked all information about Ran Miao Miao, and used the ice and fog energy of the 5 elements. Chen Hao's flying knife technique had already shocked everyone. At this moment, Chen Hao displayed his ability to comprehend the energy of the 5 elements. If it was just comprehension, it would be fine. But now, Chen Hao's ice fog energy was so majestic and powerful that it was simply unbelievable. After all, the power of the 5 elements could only be fully exerted in the martial sage realm. Ah! Ah! Although the terrifying sound of the explosion drowned out everyone's voices, Ran Miao Miao's sharp cry suddenly broke through the explosion and resounded loudly. However, in just an instant, an even sharper cry soared into the sky and rolled out, causing the nearby disciples to feel pain in their eardrums. Miao Miao. The expression of Jing Feiyang, the head disciple of Jing Yun Empire, changed greatly and he cried out in alarm. However, the moment that sharp cry stopped, the smoke instantly dispersed, as if it was specially made for the crowd to see. Everyone's eyes were wide open. Chen Hao's fist, which was filled with origin energy and looked like a blue crystal, had landed squarely on Ran Miao Miao's forehead. Amidst the gasps and cries of alarm, that extremely beautiful little face that had caused countless youths to become restless, with a bang, like a watermelon blooming. Meow meow. Ah! I'll kill you, I'll kill you. Jing Feiyang immediately howled crazily. The origin energy in his body surged violently. With a rumble, before anyone could stop him, he rushed toward the stage. Stop! The referee who came back to his senses immediately shouted. However, Jing Feiyang had already arrived above the stage. As if he had gone crazy, he slapped down with his palm. Even the rank 9 martial emperor referee was unable to stop him. Jing Feiyang's vigorous and berserk origin energy formed an incomparably huge palm and slapped down with a rumble. Like the weight of Mount Tai, it smashed down on Chen Hao's head. At this instant, even Chen Hao did not expect that Jing Feiyang would dare to violate the competition's rules. There were no rules for the two sides in the new talent competition. However, no one was allowed to interfere in the competition. Not to mention taking revenge on the stage, even warning the other side was allowed. Feeling that terrifying energy, Chen Hao tightly frowned. He was about to attack when he suddenly stopped. Bastard! Boom! At the same time as a furious shout sounded, an incorporeal huge hand suddenly flashed from the direction of the platform and directly dispersed Jing Feiyang's mountain-like huge hand. Disrupting the competition, disqualified. Banned from the new talent competition for life. Scram! The head of the arbitration group, the mighty god general, was shining with resplendent 7-colored radiance like a god. He easily neutralized all of Jing Feiyang's attacks. Then, he directly announced the punishment. Jing Feiyang stood in the air, as if he was choked by an incorporeal huge hand. He was unable to move in the slightest. After the old man said, "Scram," he was directly thrown toward the Jingyun Kingdom's viewing platform like a dead object. Senior, thank you for saving me. After being stunned for a moment, Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to the old man who was standing in the air. There was dead silence below the stage. Helian Wuzi, Huang Qi, and the others all broke out in cold sweat. On the other hand, Chen Hao's handsome and delicate face did not change at all. Even his white robe was intact. He even calmly thanked the head of the arbitration group. It was as if he was not the one who had just experienced a life and death crisis. Chen Hao, very good. The old man only intervened to uphold the competition's rules. In fact, you don't necessarily need the old man to save you. Alright, let the competition continue. The old man stared at Chen Hao, his eyes shining brightly as he spoke calmly. His words, however, left most people scratching their heads in confusion. Don't necessarily need to be saved. What did that mean? Second update. Wushan, continue to climb and work hard. If you have monthly tickets, please help Wushan. Thank you. Chapter 117. Monthly votes. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Thank you. The words of the head of the arbitration group shocked Chen Hao. Could it be that the head of the arbitration group had seen through his true battle power? Slightly shrugging his shoulders, Chen Hao, before the shocked gazes of the crowd, flew to the viewing platform. Boy, you've truly hidden your strength well. Just as Chen Hao sat down, Huang Qi looked at Chen Hao with a seemingly displeased expression. Uncle Huang, I didn't hide anything. After coming out of the remnant, you didn't ask me anything. Chen Hao felt the fiery gazes of the crowd. Even Helian Wuzi, Moue, Yunfian, and Fang Qing were no exception. No one could have thought that Chen Hao was actually powerful to such a level. According to the words of the head of the arbitration group, it seemed that Chen Hao had risen to the level of Jing Feiyang. How could the crowd not be shocked? Even Dongfang Jun, who had become sworn enemies with Chen Hao because of Helian Wuzi, no longer looked at Chen Hao with the same arrogance as before. Instead, it was replaced with shock and a strange emotion. That's true. I truly didn't expect you to grow so quickly. To possess such battle power as a rank 5 martial emperor, I'm afraid. Huang Qi stopped halfway and continued, I'm looking forward to your performance. The battles continued. Soon, the third round ended. In the fourth round, there were only 4 people left in each group. Only the 8th group had 3 people left because Jing Feiyang was disqualified. Dongfang Jun, who was originally lightly injured and destined to face Jing Feiyang in the 4th round, had already lost his fighting spirit. However, at this moment, his fighting spirit was once again ignited. It must be said that this opportunity was created for him by Qin Hao. The other 2 were both rank 7 martial emperors. Dongfang Jun had an 80% certainty that he would be able to defeat them, obtain first place in the group, and advance to the true rookie competition. To be able to win 3 rounds in a row, there was not a single weak person left. The 4th round began. The first 7 rounds were all fought by the chief disciples of each group. Yi Mingho and the other chief disciples had all successfully advanced to the next round. Only in the 6th group, the chief disciple of the Heavenly War Kingdom was eliminated by the second-ranked expert of the Great Qian Kingdom, Bu Feihong. At the same time, what made the people of the Zhenyuan Kingdom feel regretful was that Zhao Yunlong, who was very promising, was eliminated by the second group's chief disciple, Sima Chong, by a very small margin. This ended Zhao Yunlong's dream. When it came to the 8th group, Dongfang Jun, who was at the front of the line, was full of fighting spirit because he didn't have Jing Feiyang. He actually won another battle and smoothly advanced to the next round. As long as he defeated the disciple who was given a bye in the next round, he would be promoted to the real rookie competition. Whether it was luck or strength, no matter how bad Dongfang Jun's performance in the Royal New Show Hall was, everyone still felt honored at this moment. After all, he had brought honor to the Zhenyuan Kingdom. The 9th and 10th groups' battles also ended very quickly. Because there was no chief disciple, these 2 groups were undoubtedly lucky. However, those who could make it this far were all experts. The 2 victorious disciples were actually from the Deqian Kingdom. Without any pause, the 5th round began. Bai Lishi won with light injuries. As long as he defeated the chief disciple of the 3rd group in the 6th round, he would be able to advance. Finally, it was Qin Hao's turn again. His opponent was an 18-year-old rank 7 martial emperor, a disciple of the Star Luo Kingdom. He was from the same kingdom as the chief disciple of the 4th group. Qin Hao didn't hesitate, nor did he show any mercy. Even though he didn't have any enmity with his opponent, he still displayed great strength. He didn't give his opponent any chance to retaliate and directly killed him. Survival of the fittest. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the law of the jungle. It was also something that every kingdom's disciple would do. After the 5th round ended, there were only 2 people left in each group. This was the final battle. It was also the battle that would determine whether or not one was qualified to advance to the real rookie competition. Bai Lishi, you'll be in the 3rd round. You should have seen your opponent's strength. Whether or not you'll be able to advance will depend on this battle. You still have a lot of hope. Huang Qi encouraged. Although Huang Qi could see that Bai Lishi only had a 40% chance of winning, this was Bai Lishi's last chance. After this year, Bai Lishi would no longer have the chance to participate in the rookie competition. If he failed, it would mean that he would be like Zhao Yunlong. He would never be able to reach a higher level. I'll do my best, even if I die. Bai Lishi said resolutely. His opponent was the chief disciple of the Heaven Vault Kingdom, Bai Meng. The strength that Bai Lishi had displayed in the past few battles put a lot of pressure on him. However, this was his last chance. Whether or not he could advance was related to his honor, his clan's honor, and the Zhenyuan Kingdom's honor. He had to put his life on the line. Qin Hao, you'll be in the 4th round. Your opponent, Yin Fenghan, is probably no weaker than Yi Mingho. Are you sure you have the strength to fight him? Yin Fenghan won't let go of a genius like you. Think about it carefully. You're not even 15 years old. You still have a chance. There's no need to think about it. Either he dies, or I die. Chen Hao's tone was even more resolute. Yin Fenghan still didn't have an opponent that was strong enough for him to reveal his true strength. Even Chen Hao was well aware that the upcoming battle would be the most difficult one he had ever faced. He wasn't confident that he could win. However, Chen Hao knew that he wouldn't do as he said. He had to win at all costs. Even if he had to expose all his trump cards. Huang Qi stared at Chen Hao for a while and didn't say anything else. Even he couldn't guess Chen Hao's true strength. However, based on his understanding of Chen Hao, he felt that Chen Hao might exceed everyone's expectations. Then, Huang Qi talked about Dongfang Jian. With Dongfang Jian's strength, as long as he didn't hide any powerful trump cards, it wouldn't be difficult for him to advance. As for Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi's words were similar to Chen Hao's. The only difference was that Dongfang Jun had a higher chance of winning in terms of reputation. This was because the gap between his opponent and Yin Fenghan wasn't small. When Chen Hao arrogantly stepped onto the stage to fight against a rank 8 martial emperor, Helian Wuzi, who was sitting next to him, used her arm to nudge Chen Hao. She turned her beautiful little face and slightly raised it. She looked straight at Chen Hao and said, "Why must you risk your life? Can't you do it 2 years later?" Chen Hao frowned slightly and avoided Helian Wuzi's gaze. After hesitating for a while, he finally said, 2 years is too long. I can't wait that long. Do it at all costs. Helian Wuzi's sharp intuition seemed to have caught something from Chen Hao's evasive gaze. She lowered her voice and asked with a slight tremble. Chen Hao nodded and replied. I understand. I will. Little Mo and I will work hard. Helian Wuzi looked at Chen Hao's face that had become even more handsome and mature. She tightly bit her lips and said with a voice as soft as a mosquito's. Do it at all costs. These words made Helian Wuzi clearly feel that Chen Hao, who had once humiliated her but was unable to make her hate him, seemed to be fated to walk out of her sight. No one knew better than her and Moe about Chen Hao's abnormal talent. She had always been working hard, putting her life on the line. She had long realized that there would be a day when she and Moe would not be able to keep up with his pace. She just didn't expect it to come so quickly, so early. A heart that was already rippling could only forcibly suppress all of this. She didn't want to become a burden that hindered his progress. She also had a woman's reservedness and dignity. So, she didn't urge him to stay. She couldn't urge him to stay. She also knew that she couldn't urge him to stay. The only thing she could do was to work even harder and cultivate even more crazily. Moe, who was sitting next to Helian Wuzi, lightly trembled his ears. His gaze left the stage and looked at his own sword. It was fiery and firm. Yi Minghe ended the battle within 3 minutes. He heavily injured the strongest opponent in the first group and was the first to qualify for the rookie competition. In the second group, Sima Chong, the chief disciple of the Great Dome Kingdom, obtained the first place after much difficulty. In the third group, Bai Lishi gave it his all but still lost. He lost by a small margin and was eliminated after Zhao Yunlong. The chief disciple of the Heaven Vault Kingdom, Bai Meng, obtained the first place in the group. Whoosh whoosh. When the referee called out Yin Fenghan and Chen Hao's names, the two instantly turned into 2 streaks of light and appeared in the middle of the stage at the same time. Your battle strength is really shocking. It's a pity that you met me. Admit defeat. At least you can keep your life. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. When the referee announced the start of the battle, Yin Fenghan and Chen Hao's aura rapidly soared. At the same time, Yin Fenghan's eerie rooster voice rang out. Your voice is even more shocking. It makes one seriously suspect that you were a father-in-law for a few years when you were young. Chen Hao's lips curled up slightly as he directly hit Yin Fenghan's sore spot. One shouldn't expose a person's shortcomings when scolding, but Chen Hao did so. What? Yin Fenghan, who was feminine and handsome, suddenly roared sharply. He forcibly changed the what into what. More like it. No, it should be. Admit defeat. I think you're afraid, right? Otherwise, with your personality, why would you give me the chance to admit defeat? Damn eunuch. Chen Hao's words were even more direct. I want you to die. Yin Fenghan's anger instantly rose to the limit. He took a step forward and his snow-white, crystal-like palm violently slapped towards Chen Hao. Chen Hao's pupils constricted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, 1, 2, 3, a total of 9 flying daggers that emitted a cold aura and unparalleled sharpness drew 9 strange trajectories as they shot towards Yin Fenghan. A battle of wits and courage. The conversation between the two did not seem to have any substance, but it was enough to prove that both sides completely regarded the other as a strong opponent. Yin Fenghan did not want to use his words to frighten Chen Hao and make him retreat. Because after several rounds of battle, he discovered that he could not see through Chen Hao at all. This made him, who was always arrogant, not dare to say who would win so easily. But he did not expect that not only did he not succeed in frightening him, he instead made Chen Hao so angry that he completely lost his mind. His voice was strange. Who dared to say? Who said that he would fight with his life on the line? Not to mention the eunuchs and eunuchs, one had to know, this was a secret that only his parents and himself knew. How could Chen Hao's tone be so certain? How could he say it in front of the world? P.S. Third update. I sincerely request the brothers and sisters who still have monthly votes to support me. Thank you. Chapter 118. Brothers and sisters, today's monthly votes are still 0. Is there anything more miserable than this? Everyone, please give me some encouragement. The shock of losing an egg is too great. Covering my face with tears, I will continue writing. Everything will depend on everyone. Light of the fireflies. Facing the strange and tricky 9 flying daggers, the furious Yin Fenghan shouted coldly. His exposed skin seemed to have turned into a white jade crystal in an instant, emitting a faint blue metallic luster. The color of his pair of flesh palms became darker, like they had turned into sharp claws. He did not care about the 9 flying daggers at all. His body was as fast as a ghost, approaching Chen Hao. Ding ding ding. Boom boom boom. The incomparably sharp flying daggers that were capable of instantly killing rank 7 martial emperors actually let out a metallic sound when they collided with Yin Fenghan's body. They were knocked back with a loud rumble. Yin Fenghan was not injured in the slightest. He actually continued his previous words and coldly said, "You dare to compete with the sun and moon? Prepare to die." Ah! Yin Fenghan suddenly let out a sharp whistle. He, who was less than 15 meters away from Chen Hao, immediately soared into the sky and emitted an incomparably sharp killing intent. He flew through the sky like a flash of lightning. He twisted his body in the air and slapped down with his azure palm. Violent lightning blast. Hiss hiss, rumble. The frightening origin power actually contained a strong aura of lightning. Like a thunderbolt, it exploded and bombarded Chen Hao below. Heavenly lightning palm. The instant the experts on the viewing platform and the various countries' participant seating areas saw Yin Fenghan unleash his palm, they immediately cried out in alarm. Especially the Zhenyuan Kingdom's Hall Master, Vice Hall Master and Huang Qi, who was seated at the front of the participant seating area, all revealed expressions of extreme shock. Heavenly Lightning Palm, a level 16 secret skill. It was one of the strongest and highest level secret skills in the Star Luo Kingdom. According to rumor, when cultivated to the peak, one could be comparable to real lightning. With a single palm strike, lightning would wreak havoc and thunder would rumble. It was a frightening secret skill that only martial ancestor realm cultivators could learn. Only martial saints could truly unleash its might. Yet now, Yin Fenghan, who was only a rank 8 martial emperor, had unleashed the heavenly lightning palm. Although Han Feng had not unleashed the full power of the heaven's thunder palm, this move was not something that a martial emperor could withstand. Although Helian Wuzi, Moue, and the rest did not know how powerful the Heaven's Thunder Palm was, at this moment, that terrifying aura had already enveloped the entire martial arts practice field, causing the heaven and earth energy above the arena to become violent. With this kind of power, it was hard to imagine how terrifying Yin Fenghan's palm was. Rumbling explosions shook the surroundings. Thunderclaps, lightning, and thunderclaps exploded out successively, shaking the entire martial practice grounds to the point of trembling and trembling. Stone fragments even swirled into the air on the combat arena, and cracks swiftly appeared on the ground beneath the combat arena and the steps on the spectator stands. The power was so great that it shocked everyone present. Being able to die under my Heaven's Thunder Palm is enough for you to be proud, he. Yin Fenghan continuously struck out with his palms, his arrogant voice resounding in everyone's ears. On the other hand, Chen Hao, who was in the arena, was dodging the terrifying lightning palms like a mouse. He was in a sorry state, and it was obvious that he had pushed his protective energy to the limit. How much longer could he last? Everyone could almost see the scene of Chen Hao being blasted by the lightning and smashed into pieces. Too terrifying, this Yin Fenghan's strength is actually so strong. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than our 5 palace chief. Yes. He's indeed very strong. Although it's not quite possible for him to obtain the right to participate in the 100 Empire rankings, he can definitely advance to the top 50, no, the top 20, or even the top 10 are all possible. Of course, the prerequisite is that he also possesses a spirit treasure that can contend with our 5 palace chief. That's true. The talent of these vassal states' top disciples is actually not inferior to our empire's true geniuses. The only difference is in their background. Spirit treasures are probably very difficult to obtain in those barren places. Yes. But it's not impossible. Over the years, there have been many disciples who possess spirit treasures. Although there are few low-level inheritances in those places, there are still some. We can't look down on them too much. This Yin Fenghan entered the top 10 in the previous preliminaries with the cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. His battle power and luck are both extremely astonishing. And now, he even used the Heaven's Lightning Palm that surpasses his cultivation. I feel that it's very possible that he possesses a spirit treasure. This Xinyuan Kingdom's Chen Hao is truly unfortunate. He's only 15 years old and he already possesses such strength. If he didn't force himself to accept the challenge, it wouldn't be difficult for him to obtain the right to participate in the 100 Empire rankings 2 years later. His talent is not inferior to our 5 palace chief, and might even surpass them. If he was born in our empire, he would be extremely powerful. There's nothing we can do about it. This is the sorrow of super geniuses. Generally speaking, super geniuses are all arrogant and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. For people like him, 99 out of 100 will die young. Only the one that survives can become a true super existence. Unfortunately, there are too many people. This Chen Hao won't be able to endure more than a few moves. Truly stubborn. If I were him, I'd immediately jump off the stage and admit defeat. Isn't that just waiting for death? On the viewing platform, many disciples of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall stared at the stage with bright eyes as they discussed spiritedly. However, some of the experts' gazes quietly changed. Originally, they were staring at the insufferably arrogant Yin Fenghan, but now, they were looking at Chen Hao with a trace of shock. 1 minute. Chen Hao had already miserably dodged Yin Fenghan's horrifying Heaven's Lightning Palm for 1 minute. Even though his protective chi had been broken open numerous times, his clothes were in tatters, and his black hair had become disheveled, what was shocking was that his figure actually didn't slow down in the slightest. As he passed through the flying rubble, Chen Hao's extraordinarily handsome face actually didn't show the slightest trace of panic. Especially his eyes that flickered with a bright light, they were even calm like water and composed, causing others to have the feeling as if they wouldn't be moved by the wind. How was this possible? The power of lightning was the most violent kind of energy. The Heaven's Lightning Palm that Yin Fenghan had unleashed contained the power of lightning. It might not be much to a martial saint expert, but to those below the martial emperor realm, it had a huge destructive power. Lightning shock, Yuan Qi explosion. Without a doubt, the power of lightning was the most terrifying kind of energy for cultivators, especially low-level cultivators. Not to mention being struck by lightning, even cultivating in a thunderstorm was a great taboo. Otherwise, once one was contaminated by the power of lightning, one's dantian would explode, and one's body would be smashed to pieces. However, after Qinhao was hit and his protective aura was broken, his body only paused for a moment before he once again fled at lightning speed. Could it be, this kid has comprehended the lightning attribute of gold? Huang Qi and most of the experts on the viewing platform were shocked at this moment. When Qinhao was fighting against Ran Miaomiao, he had already displayed the power of ice and mist. Everyone had seen it clearly. To be able to comprehend one of the 5 elements in the martial emperor realm, although it was shocking, everyone present were the top geniuses of the various kingdoms. It was not enough to shock them. Many of them had comprehended it. But, to be able to comprehend 2 of the 5 elements at the same time at the martial emperor realm was definitely rare. The originally arrogant and insufferably arrogant Yin Fenghan, who was originally confident of victory, in just a short minute, his eyes became extremely sinister. His brows were tightly furrowed. Although he was still violently waving his palms and had the absolute advantage, he knew that if this continued, the one who would lose would be him. Such an attack that exceeded one's cultivation level was something that consumed a lot of Yuan Qi. How long could he last? After a short moment of hesitation, Yin Fenghan's eyes suddenly flashed with determination and viciousness. He no longer hesitated. Be careful, he is about to use it. No one knew that at this moment, the voice of the treasure-hunting sword spirit rang in Qinhao's mind. When Yin Fenghan used the heaven's thunder palm, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had already appeared. It was not to help Qinhao fight, as it did not have the ability to do so. However, with its sensitive perception of treasures, it discovered that Yin Fenghan's heaven's thunder palm contained a strong aura of a spiritual treasure. Otherwise, with Yin Fenghan's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to use such a powerful attack. Good. Qinhao's cold eyes flashed with a wisp of light. His mind was instantly immersed in a wonderful state. While he was fleeing in a sorry state, he suddenly stomped his feet. Hong! An explosive sound came from under his feet. His body, which was already moving at an astonishing speed, instantly turned into a streak of light. With a "so" sound, he left behind a semicircular afterimage. At the same time, he actually avoided the Yin wind cold thunder palm and flew high into the sky. Ah! Cries of shock erupted from the crowd. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. Hiss hiss hiss, to everyone's surprise, Qinhao had actually removed his protective aura, and streaks of lightning surged out of his body like arcs of lightning. He really comprehended the power of lightning. Countless experts said in their hearts in shock. Even Yin Fenghan stared with his eyes wide open in shock. He did not dare to hesitate any longer. With a sharp voice, he suddenly shouted, "Quick! Wang!" A bright ray of lightning, in an instant, caused the sun in the sky to dim. Competing with the sun and moon. A treasure sword that seemed to contain thousands of lightning appeared in Yin Fenghan's hand. With the sword in hand, before it was activated, it seemed to have torn apart the space barrier. It caused an earth-shattering explosion in the space of several hundred feet. The energy of heaven and earth surged, affecting the ground of the arena. Debris flew everywhere. Even the disciples on the spectator stands at the edge of the arena had to activate their protective aura in fear. Spiritual treasure. This Yin Fenghan really has a spiritual treasure. Powerful. The disciples on the spectator stands who had just guessed that Yin Fenghan had a spiritual treasure exclaimed in shock. Little brat, this was originally the trump card that I, Yin Fenghan, used to become famous in the new talent competition of the Xuanwu Empire and enter the 100 Empire ranking. But you forced me to reveal it in advance. This is enough for you to be proud of. Today, at this moment, I will use your blood to refine my spiritual treasure, 9 Heavens Thunder Sword. Die. With the sword in his hand, Yin Fenghan's aura instantly soared countless times. Following his disdainful words, the sword stabbed out. Boom. The brilliant sword light carried a pressure that could destroy the heavens and the earth as it pressed down towards Qinhao from all directions. The entire martial arts practice field erupted with gasps and exclamations. Helian Wuzi's small face instantly turned pale, and her delicate body trembled. Mou's expression was also extremely nervous. Huang Qi, Fang Qing, and Yunfian all clenched their fists nervously and held their breaths. The other disciples of the Zhenyuan kingdom, at this moment of glory and disgrace, were also extremely nervous. They broke out in a cold sweat for Qinhao. No one thought that Yin Fenghan actually had a spiritual treasure, and the aura emitted by this spiritual treasure was absolutely beyond everyone's imagination. First update. Can you give me a monthly vote? Today, it's still 0. I don't even have a single vote. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian.com to give me a recommendation vote or monthly vote. Chapter 119. The second update has arrived, and there is a third update tonight. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your monthly votes. I already have 10 votes, can I get 30 votes today? If I can, Dark Mountain will fight to the death for 12,000 votes tomorrow. 12,000 votes may not be much to other people, but to Dark Mountain, it will take 16 hours, or even longer. Come, brothers and sisters, stimulate Dark Mountain, let Dark Mountain explode once. Only 20 votes left. See you at midnight, it's all up to you. The dazzling, majestic, and terrifying sword light whistled as it surged towards Qinhao. The sword light contained numerous terrifying bolts of lightning that flickered in and out. Once it collided with Qinhao, it would be the moment of its explosion. Break for me. Just when everyone was shocked, Qinhao, whose body was flashing with electric light, was not afraid at all. His palm shook, and a lusterless ring that looked like an ordinary iron appeared in his hand. With a clear shout, the ring shook, and suddenly flashed with 7 colored rings of light, which were ever-changing, and covered the oncoming brilliant sword light layer by layer. Spirit treasure. Stupid. Heavenly lightning burning body, explode. Yin Fenghan shouted angrily. The sword in his hand shook, and the terrifying sword light that contained bolts of lightning suddenly exploded. Kacha kacha. Bolts of lightning as thick as a person instantly shot through the 7-colored ring, wanting to hit Qinhao's body. Good. Qinhao stood in the void and raised the ring with one hand. At this moment, the small ring suddenly expanded dozens of times with a hum sound. An even more dazzling 7-colored light immediately blocked the thunderbolt. The 7-colored light of the ring became even brighter, and with a hiss, it emitted different colored lights that poured into the center of Qinhao's brows. Kacha kacha. Boom boom boom, the space between Qinhao and the cold wind was like a purgatory of thunder and lightning, but everything around Qinhao was calm and tranquil. Only the extremely pure energy of the 5 elements was continuously fusing into the space between Qinhao's eyebrows, causing his body to begin to shine with an intense 7-colored light. What spirit treasure is this? It's so powerful. How is this possible? This Qinhao also has a spirit treasure. Oh my god. Waves of exclamations erupted from the spectator stands. Numerous gazes were fixated on Qinhao, who was shining with a 7-colored radiance and standing proudly. They simply could not believe what they were seeing. In their original opinion, Qinhao would definitely be blasted into smithereens by Fenghan's lightning sword. But now, that terrifying lightning sword light was actually unable to harm Qinhao in the slightest. What was even more shocking was that the scene before him seemed to have completely converted the lightning energy of Qinhao into pure energy of the 5 elements through the strange ring in his hand, and then fused it into his own body. Operate the 5 elements? The experts on the rostrum, including the head of the arbitration team, crushed the teacups in their hands in shock. They stood up and stared at this shocking scene. Most people only guessed that Chen Hao had fused his opponent's thunderbolt energy into his body. However, as a martial saint expert, the head of the arbitration team was very clear about this. That ordinary-looking ring was definitely a top-tier soul treasure of the martial saint realm. No one knew that such a scene was something that even Chen Hao himself did not expect. Originally, when Chen Hao obtained the Heaven and Earth ring, he was only at the martial royal realm. If he wanted to activate the Heaven and Earth ring to fight, he would need to burn a large number of 5 elements spiritual pills to be able to do so. However, after stepping into the martial emperor realm and comprehending the mysteries of yin and yang in the ruins, and cultivating the 9 revolution heavenly sun body, he had refined 30% of the 5 elements spiritual roots that he had comprehended but was unable to truly refine. Moreover, he had a higher and deeper understanding of operating the 5 elements. Although he still could not unleash the true power of the Heaven and Earth ring, he could activate it by himself. Therefore, when faced with the powerful attack of Feng Han's 9 Heavens Thunder Sword, he had no choice but to activate the Heaven and Earth ring to block it. However, he did not expect that the Heaven and Earth ring would not disperse the terrifying thunderbolt, but instead swallow it. Others could not sense it, but Chen Hao could sense it very clearly. After the 5 elements energy in the Heaven and Earth ring suddenly swallowed the thunderbolt, the balance was broken. In an instant, it began to operate the 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were all derived elements. They revolved at a speed of thousands of revolutions in an instant. With each revolution, a trace of the thunderbolt energy would disappear, and the balance of the 5 elements would be restored. The Heaven and Earth ring swallowed the thunderbolt, but the enhanced 5 elements energy was directly transmitted to Chen Hao without leaving a trace behind. Hiss. The majestic 5 elements energy was like the Yangtze River and Yellow River as it surged into Chen Hao's body, stimulating Chen Hao's meridians and dantian. Chen Hao, who looked like a god standing proudly, was not as relaxed as he appeared to be. In this battle, he had no choice but to integrate most of his attention into refining the 5 elements energy. Chen Hao deeply understood that this was caused by the difference in realm. If he was already a martial saint, he would not be in such a predicament. The burning pain made Chen Hao's meridians and dantian feel as if they were burning. Fortunately, Chen Hao had experienced the tempering of the 9 revolutions heavenly sun technique. His physical body had already reached an unimaginable realm. How is this possible? How is this possible? I want you to die. Yin Fenghan's sharp voice roared angrily. Activating the 9 Heavens Thunder Sword beyond his realm was an extremely exhausting matter. He originally thought that he would definitely be able to kill Chen Hao, but now, Chen Hao actually used a small ring to block his terrifying sword light. What kind of spirit treasure was that ring, to be so powerful? Frightened, Yin Fenghan knew that if this continued, he would die of exhaustion before he could kill Chen Hao. How could he dare to continue like this? With a heart-wrenching roar, Yin Fenghan suddenly activated his mental connection with the 9 Heavens Thunder Sword to the extreme. His energy, essence, qi, and spirit instantly erupted completely. Either you die, or I die. One sword. Success or failure would depend on this sword. Because once this sword was released, he would no longer have any battle strength. Hiss. Boom. The 9 Heavens Thunder Sword condensed all of Yin Fenghan's cultivation, essence, qi, and spirit. Man and sword as one, it was like a divine dragon condensed from thunder. Roaring, with the majestic might of heaven, it charged towards Chen Hao. Pooh! The violent energy that suddenly increased by several times made Chen Hao explosively retreat. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, but his eyes did not even blink. Becoming even colder and calmer, he suddenly clenched the mysterious yellow ring with both hands and let out a clear roar that resounded through heaven and earth. In an instant, Chen Hao also merged all of his essence, qi, and spirit into the mysterious yellow ring. After a short while, Chen Hao felt all the energy in his body being sucked out. Kacha! Boom boom boom, a terrifying explosion reverberated throughout the world, blotting out the sky, and a terrifying storm suddenly appeared within a radius of 10,000 zhang. The trees in the distance snapped and rose into the sky. If it were not for the fact that the palace building contained a magic array, it would have collapsed. Boom! Boom! Yin Fenghan advanced, Chen Hao retreated. Yin Fenghan, who was one with the sword, gripped the sword with both hands. The sword tip was pointed at Chen Hao. It had already pierced half a foot into the middle of the mysterious yellow ring. It was only a foot away from Chen Hao, who was holding the mysterious yellow ring, and was slowly approaching. Victory and defeat were about to be decided, and one would die and one would be injured. In the depths of the Xuanwu Empire New Show Hall, an old man sat cross-legged, floating in the air. But the strange thing was that there was not the slightest trace of energy around him. It was as if he had merged into heaven and earth, floating with the slight movement of the dust in the air. The old man had white hair and a youthful complexion. His eyes seemed to be closed, and there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. His two hands were casually placed on his two legs. Anyone who saw this scene would feel that the old man was floating in the water, or standing on a cloud. Heaven and earth is me, I am heaven and earth, completely formed by nature. The old man, who was immersed in the mysteries of heaven and earth, suddenly heard a "hoo" sound from the entrance of the hall. The door suddenly opened, and a gust of wind rushed in. The entire hall seemed to tremble violently. With a "so" sound, the old man was blown away by the wind. He was like a grain of air, dancing with the wind. Seeing that the old man was about to hit the wall, the old man suddenly opened his eyes. His white eyebrows wrinkled, and his figure suddenly stopped, remaining motionless. What a large movement! There is such an expert in the Vassal Kingdom's rookie selection competition. The old man's expression was slightly surprised. The moment he finished speaking, he disappeared into thin air from the hall. I never thought that the two of them would have spirit treasures, and they are not bad spirit treasures. Yang Fan, who do you think will win between the two? On the stands, the two youths who had previously commented on Chen Hao had unknowingly arrived at the edge of the stands. Of the two, the Azure Dragon Hall's first seat, the handsome youth, was no longer lazily leaning on the railing like before. Instead, he stood as straight as a sword. His eyes shone brightly as he watched Chen Hao and Yin Fenghan's final attack. He was very clear that whoever couldn't hold on first would be the one to die. The youth called Yang Fan was the skinny and ordinary-looking youth who would disappear if thrown into a crowd. He was the first seat of the White Tiger Hall. Just like his name, if anyone treated him as a real mortal, they would not even know how they died. It's hard to say, but that Chen Hao's chances are higher. Oh. I feel that Yin Fenghan will win. There's still 3 inches left. Let's bet. Sure, the old rules. Ha, you've lost for sure. Yang Fan faintly smiled. Yin Fenghan has already lost her rationality. She can't hold on for long. And Chen Hao is still passively defending. More importantly, look at Chen Hao's expression, especially his eyes. From the beginning to the end, he has not lost his cool. My intuition tells me that he is not going all out. So close, yet worlds apart, just watch. Although it's only 3 inches, oh, no, it's now 2 inches, I believe that Yin Fenghan will not be able to pierce Chen Hao. You always have a set of theories. Let's wait and see. At most, 2 minutes will be enough to determine the winner. No matter who wins, it has made me a little interested in this rookie competition. Just a little. How much more do you want? Do you think they can beat me? Perhaps not now. However, don't forget that the Empire's rookie competition will only begin in 3 months. Yin Fenghan is nothing, but that Chen Hao. Yang Fan narrowed his eyes and shook his head. He continued, he is only a rank 5 martial emperor. Yet, he already possesses such battle power. The space for him to grow. Amen. Halfway through his words, Yang Fan's calm expression suddenly revealed a trace of surprise. His small eyes shined as he raised his head and looked to the sky. P.S. Second update. Requesting monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 120. Not at all. Dark Mountain's requirements are too high. Sorry. Dark Mountain's updates are still stable, and its quality and quantity is guaranteed. It can't be as fierce as the others, so it can only be stable for a long time. Thank you, everyone. Actually, when the previous chapter said that there would be 30 votes today and 4 tomorrow, Dark Mountain was also under great pressure. It forced itself to explode and increase its speed. Now that it obviously can't do it, Dark Mountain is a little more relaxed. Heaving a sigh of relief, originally, everyone was staring at Qin Hao and Yin Feng Han, who were about to win, but they were interrupted by a milky white belt of light that appeared in the sky. The moment the belt of light appeared, the air tumbled, and the thunderous sky became strangely quiet. The belt of light split into two and separated Qin Hao and Yin Feng Han like two gentle hands. When they separated, their movements and expressions didn't change at all. They were still in the same state as before. However, their terrifying attacks, which caused the world to tremble, were like stones sinking into the sea when they met the belt of light. They couldn't cause any waves anymore. Everyone's gaze followed the origin of the belt of light, and a sage-like figure appeared in everyone's eyes. He stood on an auspicious cloud with white hair, a white beard, and a white robe. He stood with his hands behind his back and slowly descended from the sky. Riding on clouds. Martial. Martial God. The legendary martial God. Countless disciples widened their eyes in shock. Their mouths were wide open, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Above Martial Emperor, flying in the sky wasn't really flying. To put it bluntly, it was just a few times faster than running on land. Only when one stepped into the legendary martial god realm could he merge himself with the world, ride the wind, step on the clouds, and travel thousands of miles in an instant. That was the real flying, the real transcendence of the world. Hall Master. On the rostrum, the leader of the arbitration team immediately flew into the sky and bowed from afar. Greetings, Hall Master Mu. Zhao Xingqian and the others also stood up and bowed with their fists clasped together. Their faces were filled with respect from the bottom of their hearts. No need to be so polite. The old man wore a smile on his face as he waved his hand across the sky. Nothing out of the ordinary could be seen from a few hundred zhang away, but Zhao Xingqian and the others could feel a gentle force gently lifting them up. The gentle voice was heard once again, "Are these two kids having a group battle?" This old man was the hall master of Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, the imperial protector, and the leader of the three top experts, Mu Qing. None of the people present knew exactly what his cultivation level was. He could only be sure that the person was at least a peak martial god, or even a legendary existence that had surpassed the martial god realm. Yes, Hall Master. Not bad at all. What are your names? The old man asked with a smile as he slowly descended beside Qin Hao and Yin Feng Han, who were bound by the light belts. He waved his hand lightly and the light belts immediately disappeared. Senior, this disciple is Qin Hao from the Zhenyuan Kingdom. Qin Hao, who was in shock, immediately calmed down and bowed in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Zhenyuan Kingdom. Mu Qing repeated as if he was talking to himself. As he spoke, his gaze crossed the distance of a few hundred zhang and looked at the spectator stand where the Zhenyuan Kingdom was located. He smiled faintly as if he was greeting someone, nodded, and then withdrew his gaze. No one saw it, but the old man, Huang Qi, snorted coldly and turned his face away. He cursed in a voice that only he could hear, "Impressive my ass, if I hadn't, this disciple, the Star Luo Kingdom." Yin Feng Han. Under the old man's invisible pressure, Yin Feng Han actually could not control himself. His originally rooster-like voice became even sharper. Furthermore, it was trembling, and his speech was not light. Although he was aware of it, he couldn't avoid it at all. His soft and fair face flushed red. Not bad, not bad. The old man's gaze swept over the two of them, and then intentionally or unintentionally stopped on Qin Hao. After he finished speaking, he looked at the head of the arbitration team and said, "These two little fellows are people of great fortune and are also rare geniuses. They are also ranked highly in our empire's new show hall. Make an exception and let the two of them tie for first place in the group. Let them both advance." "Yes, Hall Master." Mu Qing's figure gradually faded and silently disappeared before everyone's eyes. No one had expected such an outcome. The competition still had to continue, but because of the shocking battle between Chen Hao and Yin Fenghan, as well as the appearance of the Shuangwu Kingdom's Hall Master, the following battles became dull in everyone's eyes. In the fifth group, Dongfang Jian successfully advanced and obtained first place in the group, winning another spot for the Zhenyuan Kingdom. Including Chen Hao, there were 2 spots, which was enough to make the Zhenyuan Kingdom proud. In the 8th group, Dongfang Jun went all out and obtained victory again. Luck, and also strength, won the 3rd spot for the Zhenyuan Kingdom. Bai Lishi and Zhao Yunlong were expected to fail, but unexpectedly, Chen Hao and Dongfang Jun were the winners. In the 9th and 10th group, the 2 spots were both obtained by the Deqian Kingdom. The Deqian Kingdom was within everyone's expectations, but the weaker Zhenyuan Kingdom soared to the sky. After deciding the 11 disciples who were qualified to participate in the new show hall, the head of the arbitration team directly gave out the prizes. The 11 of them each received 100 level 8 spirit herbs, 1,000 level 7 spirit herbs, and 10,000 level 6 spirit herbs. The kingdoms that the 11 of them belonged to received a set of level 8 to level 16 secret techniques. Chen Hao and the rest personally chose a set and had the priority to cultivate it. This was the most important thing for the various kingdoms. Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jun received 3 sets, a total of 29 secret techniques. This made the Hall Master, Zhao Xingchen, and the 2 Vice Hall Masters overjoyed. As for the kingdoms that didn't receive the qualifications, their faces were gloomy as they returned to their kingdoms. Similarly, Chen Hao and the rest also received the qualifications to temporarily cultivate in the Shuangwu Kingdom's new show hall. By the time Chen Hao and the rest returned to the Zhenyuan Kingdom's courtyard, the sky was already completely dark. They suffered heavy losses, but fortunately, they had a bountiful harvest. Zhao Xingchen, the 2 Vice Hall Masters, and Huang Qi called Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jun to the conference hall. In the next 3 months, you will spend your time in the Shuangwu Kingdom and focus on cultivation. Especially Chen Hao, your cultivation base is too low, which restricts your combat power. If you can increase your cultivation by 1 or 2 grades within 3 months, you will definitely have the qualifications to enter the 100 Empire ranking. Dongfang Jian is also a possibility. Dongfang Jun, your combat power is the weakest. It was a coincidence that you were able to obtain a spot this time. Just treat it as a form of training. There's no need to risk your life. Your chances in the next realm will be huge. After everyone sat down, Zhao Xingchen went straight to the point. The 3 sets of level 8 to 16 absolute arts were all personally chosen by you. I think you will like them. For the time being, they will be kept by you. After 3 months, which is before the start of the new show competition, our new show hall will take them back. If you want to cultivate, you can borrow them at any time. At the same time, the set that you choose will also be granted the right to cultivate in your respective family. Of course, the kingdom will also reward your family greatly. The Dongfang family is very clear. Chen Hao, how do you want to reward them? What kind of reward? Chen Hao was slightly surprised. You are not a direct descendant of the Shao family. It's up to you to decide whether you want to reward the main family or the Shao family. However, I suggest that the material rewards go to the Shao family and the honorable rewards go to your family. After all, your parents are ordinary people. It's more appropriate for the Shao family to take care of it. Let's do as Hall Master says. Chen Hao said straightforwardly, but his brows were slightly furrowed. Speaking of family, Chen Hao thought of Shao Jihan again. Although Elder Shao now had the complete longevity secret art, his cultivation would definitely be able to advance rapidly. However, if he did not get rid of Xiao Jihan, it would still be a thorn in his heart, especially since Xiao Jihan also had the complete longevity secret art. Furthermore, Xiao Jihan's character was definitely that of an ambitious and ruthless person. Furthermore, his talent and comprehension were similarly high. If he was still out in the open, Qin Hao would not be afraid at all. However, Qin Hao had no idea where Xiao Jihan had escaped to. Fortunately, there was no need to worry for the time being. Xiao Jihan should not appear for at least 2 or 3 years. Why, is there any problem? If there is, just say it. With your current status, not to mention the hall master, even the king will give you face. If you can obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking, you will directly rise to a transcendent status. Just like the Dongfang family's Dongfang Ting, she's very impressive. Huang Qi said casually when he saw Qin Hao frown. It's nothing, I'm just a little worried about my family. Qin Hao shook his head and said. Qin Hao. What do you mean? Dongfang Jun immediately said unhappily. I, Dongfang Jun, have a grudge with you because of Helian Wuzi. Beauty, I like you, so I like you. Originally, I wanted to kill you. But now, I admit that I'm not as good as you for the time being. I can still afford to lose. You can fly as high as you want. I, Dongfang Jun, am not stupid enough to use your family to vent my anger. Qin Hao looked at Dongfang Jun speechlessly and said, Did I say you? You have the Dongfang family, so you won't go against the rules of the martial way. It's best not to, let's forget about the past. She's just a woman, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Zhao Xingqian, Huang Qi, and the rest looked at Qin Hao and Dongfang Jun strangely. Seeing that the two were no longer arguing, Zhao Xingqian said, Qin Hao, is there a problem with your family's safety? There won't be a problem for the time being, but it's hard to say in 2 or 3 years. If I'm not around, I'm afraid there will really be a problem. Qin Hao thought for a while and said it. After all, a person's strength was limited. His goal was to reach a higher level, so it was impossible for him to protect the Xiao family. If he could borrow strength, he would naturally borrow it. Tell me, what's the specific situation? Don't worry, no matter what the situation is, the Zhenyuan kingdom will be your strongest backing. I guarantee that you will strive to reach a higher level without any distractions. Zhao Xingqian said without hesitation. Qin Hao briefly explained Xiao Jihan's situation and said, It's best if we can find him. An enemy who is hiding in the dark and will definitely do anything is like a fishbone stuck in our throat. It will take time, but as long as he didn't die in the wilderness, we can still find him. It's very obvious that he's missing 4 fingers. Also, tell me about his appearance. Qin Hao responded and did not say anything. Instead, a light flashed in his hand, and he took out the small knife and a piece of wood that his father had given him from his storage ring. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Instantly, wood shavings flew everywhere, and Xiao Jihan's appearance appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Huang Qi was still alright, as he already knew that Qin Hao had this unique skill. However, Zhao Xingqian and the others were all dumbfounded, especially when there was no energy fluctuation on Qin Hao's body. He had completely relied on the small knife itself to carve. Moreover, although the time was extremely short, everyone could sense a mysterious aura on Qin Hao's body. After leaving the meeting hall, Qin Hao directly knocked on Helian Wuzi's door. P.S. Looking for a recommendation vote. Thank you. Chapter 121. First update, looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. In the summer night, the moon hung high in the sky and the starry sky shone brightly. The breeze gently caressed, bringing with it a bit of coolness, gently blowing away the sultry summer air. The cruel, bloody, and tense competition had temporarily come to an end. Countless geniuses who carried the hopes of their families had fallen here. The real geniuses had risen here, shining with a bright light, just like the stars in the night sky. A graceful figure sat alone in front of the window. Even the loose nightgown couldn't hide the charm and gentleness underneath. Hellion Woozy, who had just come out of the bath, held her cheeks with both hands and stared at the deep starry sky. Those shining stars were bright, distant, and could be seen, but could never be touched. The faint and cold moonlight shone on her beautiful little face. Her jade-like skin was sparkling and sparkling. She, who was all alone, shed the coldness she had in front of others. She lightly pursed her delicate lips, and her thoughts seemed to have drifted to the endless night sky. Under the cold exterior, often a fragile heart was hidden. She was just a young girl who hadn't yet reached the age of 18. Knock, knock knock, knock knock knock. A special knocking sound came, interrupting Hellion Woozy's contemplation. A trace of panic flashed through her beautiful eyes, and her delicate body trembled slightly. After being stunned for a moment, she bit her lips tightly, and the expression on her face once again returned to its original coldness. It's very late. The moment Hellion Woozy opened the door, she raised her face slightly and stared at Chin Hao in front of her. The cold moonlight was just like her cold expression and cold voice. Chin Hao frowned slightly, and his nose couldn't help but twitch slightly. That faint virgin fragrance was refreshing. Looking at Hellion Woozy, who was bathed in the moonlight, his mind was momentarily absent-minded. Time is tight. After being momentarily stunned, Chin Hao forcibly suppressed the charm and gentleness in his heart. He directly pushed away Hellion Woozy's arm that was blocking the door and walked into the room. At the same time, he said, "You forgot what I told you again. Remember next time." What? Clothes. Although it was the same words, this time, Chin Hao's voice wasn't joking. Go change, I'll wait for you in the cultivation room. Hellion Woozy's face flushed red again. How could he forget again? Why was it that when he was the only one who came, she would forget and let her guard down? Why was he waiting for him in the cultivation room? With a perturbed mood, after quickly changing her clothes, Hellion Woozy walked into the cultivation room. At this moment, Chin Hao was already sitting cross-legged. The mysterious yellow ring floated quietly in front of him, shining with a faint seven-colored light. You have to go back the day after tomorrow. I can already use part of the heaven and earth ring's power. Sit down. I'll convert the 5 elements spiritual pills and spirit crystals into the purest 5 elements energy through the heaven and earth ring's power. I'll inject some into your dantian. Let me know if you can't take it anymore. Also, carefully sense the mysteries of the 5 elements in the mysterious yellow ring. It should be helpful for you to comprehend the energy of the 5 elements. Chin Hao said calmly. 5 elements spirit pill, spirit crystal. Hearing Chin Hao's words, Hellion Woozy repeated in astonishment. But soon after, she looked towards Chin Hao and said, I don't want it. No. Yes. I'll rely on my own strength to comprehend it. I don't need your help. Hellion Woozy's beautiful eyes stared at Chin Hao, and she said firmly with a stubborn expression. If I ask you to take it, you must take it. Chin Hao said domineeringly without allowing her to explain. As he spoke, he opened his palms. Suddenly, a majestic suction force made Hellion Woozy unable to resist and came to Chin Hao's side. Pa, the 4 palms were stuck together. Hellion Woozy still wanted to say something, but at this moment, the heaven and earth ring had already emitted a bright 7-colored light that enveloped her. Suddenly, the majestic and pure 5 elements energy poured in from the top of her head. At the same time, a colorless and invisible energy suddenly shone from Chin Hao's forehead and connected with Hellion Woozy's forehead. Focus on nothing. If you want to keep up with my pace, be obedient and don't waste the spirit pill. Chin Hao's voice appeared directly in Hellion Woozy's mind. The domineering Chin Hao didn't explain much. If it was the previous him, he would definitely not do this. But the current him was unable to give up everything. He did what he should do. As for what would happen in the future, he could only let nature take its course. 4 hours later, Hellion Woozy's brows slightly creased. Her body rose and fell violently, as if she was immersed in boundless pain. Chen Hao slowly stood up and deeply gazed at Helian Wuzi's beautiful little face. After a full half a minute, a sword light flashed in his mind and immediately cut off the thing that disturbed his state of mind. He resolutely stepped out of Helian Wuzi's room. It wasn't because of Xia Yuyu. The next day, the sky had just brightened when a palace located in the bustling area of Dragon Lake City's core district became lively and clamorous. Wave after wave of young men and women with powerful auras poured in. This palace occupied an area of several thousand acres. Its aura was vast and grand, and the entire palace was enveloped in a dense mist. It was obvious that there was an extremely powerful restriction. At the entrance of the palace, there was an enormous signboard hanging above the door. Inlaid on the signboard were 5 majestic golden words that were flamboyant and flamboyant, Xuanwu Auction House. Today was the Xuanwu Auction House's most grand auction held every 2 years, and it was born because of the new talent competition. Today, the various provinces and vassal states of the empire's new talent hall would surely rush over to participate in the auction. As long as it was an item that was valued by the true new talent hall disciples and could increase their strength, it would surely cause a great commotion. This was also one of the rewards that the various provinces and vassal states gave to their disciples. As long as it didn't exceed their limits, they would try their best to satisfy it. And Yunfian was the representative sent by the king of Jinyuan Kingdom. A rich woman who came with a huge amount of wealth. Miss Yun, welcome, welcome. These 3 youths are the disciples that advanced in your Jinyuan Kingdom, right? As expected, they have impressive appearances and are dragons and phoenixes among men. Quickly, please come in. The VIP rooms have been prepared for you. This time, your Jinyuan Kingdom will amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. When Yunfian brought Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jun to the auction house's entrance, an old man with a face full of spring breeze instantly welcomed them with a smile. Obviously, the old man recognized Yunfian. Steward Zhao, you flatter me. Yunfian said with a slight smile. He, the truth is the truth. The old man cupped his fists and smiled, then turned to a young female attendant behind him and said, "These are the Jinyuan Kingdom's honored guests. Bring them to the VIP seats, Miss Yun, everyone, this way please. I'll bring you over." The young female attendant bowed to the 4 of them and spoke with an extremely respectful and courteous expression. These were the auction's biggest customers, especially these 3 youths, who were very likely to be super experts in the future. She had heard that the Jinyuan Kingdom's 3 people had advanced to the true new talent competition last night. The auction house was larger than Chen Hao had imagined, and it was obviously different from the Luyun Chamber of Commerce. In the hall, there were no goods for sale at all. There was only an auction here, and only precious items were qualified to be auctioned here. The luxurious decorations were majestic and didn't appear vulgar at all. When they walked into the enormous auction hall, there were already many people sitting in the ordinary seats. The layout was like a martial arts arena, with steps rising up. In front of the comfortable and luxurious seats were tables carved out of white jade, and exquisite snacks, fruits, and teacups were placed on the tables. In front of the auction stage in the middle, there were semi-enclosed VIP rooms. Under the guidance of the young female attendant, the 4 of them came to a VIP room on the left of the auction stage. The room wasn't big, and the items placed there were no different from ordinary seats. The only advantage was that it was closer to the auction stage. This auction will have many high-grade and special spirit pills, spirit herbs, and precious refining materials. There will also be many high-grade weapons and even low-grade spirit weapons. The 3 of you were able to advance to the new talent competition, but the biggest reward isn't the spirit pills that the Xuanwu Kingdom rewarded you. It's this auction. Of course, our kingdom's power is limited, so we can't give you everything. The limit is 10,000 level 8 spirit pills per person. After the 4 of them sat down, Yunfian slowly said. 10,000 level 8 spirit pills. Chen Hao and Dongfang Jian were a little surprised. When Dongfang Jun saw their expressions, he revealed a hint of pride. Clearly, this guy wasn't surprised by 10,000 level 8 spirit pills. Yesterday, when they received 100 level 8, 1,000 level 7, and 10,000 level 6 spirit pills, Qinhao was already surprised by the Xuanwu Kingdom's reward. Now, he didn't expect that after being pulled in by Yunfian, it would be such a huge amount of wealth. That was equivalent to 1 million level 6 spirit pills. This is the limit of what the kingdom can do. Not everyone is like you, having a good aunt. Yunfian looked at Dongfang Jun. Don't keep talking about my aunt. Even though you're a beauty, it's still not enough. Dongfang Jun immediately looked at Yunfian with dissatisfaction, then looked at Dongfang Jian and said, Dongfang Jian, don't look at me like that. Let me tell you, even though you're a little stronger now, it's only for now. Also, don't keep thinking that it's because my aunt washed my meridians and was reborn that I got lucky. That only accelerated my growth a little. The real deciding factor is still my comprehension. A piece of trash, no matter how much you wash your meridians and rebirth your bones, you're still a piece of trash. At most, you're just a piece of trash with a slightly stronger body. In the past, I didn't want to talk to you about this, but now. What about now? Who asked me to be the weakest now? And to sit in the same boat as you? Otherwise, Who the fuck are you with? Dongfang Jian immediately said angrily. Fine, I won't follow your father. With your petty patriarch, let me tell you, Dongfang Jian, have never thought of becoming a patriarch. My aunt is my real target. But ever since I rose up, think about all the dirty things you and your fathers have done. If it's really the same as you, my father, your grandpa, even 100 of you will be smacked to death. Wake up, if it wasn't for the fact that your innate ability is good, I wouldn't have bothered to remind you. Dongfang Jun said arrogantly and domineeringly as he stared at Dongfang Jian. However, the words that he said caused Dongfang Jian's face to turn red and white. Obviously, he did not expect that Dongfang Jun, who was trash in his eyes, would actually say such words. First update. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes. Chapter 122. The second update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. There will be a third update tonight. Climb Dark Mountain and work hard, please everyone. Even Qinhao was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the arrogant Dongfang Jun, who deserved a beating, would have such a side to him. This also made Qinhao realize that sometimes, hedonistic disciples were not necessarily hedonistic. Alright, the auction is about to start. Later, if you see anything you like, bid for it. If there are too many, you can make up for it yourself. If there are too few, the remaining pills will be given to you. Yunfian glanced at Dongfang Jun and Dongfang Jian who were staring at each other with red faces and thick necks. After that, she looked at Qinhao and said softly, Little junior brother, master will sponsor you 1,000 rank 8 spirit pills. You can bid according to the minimum of 11,000 rank 8 spirit pills. No way, master is sponsoring me? Qinhao was slightly shocked. Other than personally inviting him to the new show hall, Fang Yuan had not seen him even once. Like Huang Qi said, Fang Yuan had countless direct disciples. Qinhao was only one of them. He, master informed me yesterday when the communication talisman sent back the news. He said, after bringing you in, he did not have time to take care of you before you entered the ruins. Now that you have advanced to such a realm, it can be considered master's compensation to you. Thank master on my behalf. Qinhao said. Also, senior sister will sponsor you 500 rank 8 spirit pills. How will you thank me? Yunfian whispered into Qinhao's ear. The fragrance lingered in the air and her charming eyes made Qinhao dodge to the side, saying, Can I not ask for your sponsorship? What are you afraid of? Senior sister will not ask you to repay me with your body, you only need to take care of senior sister's business in the future. In the future, the trash that you don't need, the goods that you don't like, whatever, can be given to me. Of course, senior sister won't take them for free. The price is fair, and I won't cheat anyone. For example. Yunfian paused for a moment, then whispered into Chen Hao's ear, "You've already comprehended the energy of the 5 elements, so don't waste them like ordinary pills. How about selling them to senior sister? It's long gone, it's not a good boy to lie. If senior sister didn't guess wrongly, that powerful ring of yours should have been obtained from the mysterious yellow treasure vault, right? It's called the mysterious yellow ring. Or the 5 elements ring. That should be a treasure second only to the 5 elements' spiritual roots in the mysterious yellow treasury. Moreover, the 5 elements' spiritual roots must have been obtained by you, right? Don't deny it. This, not to mention senior sister, even the 2 beside her can guess. Therefore, you should still have a lot of 5 elements spiritual pills and spiritual crystals. There's really nothing else. I used some last night and will use some again tonight. Even though it's useless to me. But little Wu and little Mo still need it. That's what we obtained together. I'm just the person in charge of keeping it. Chen Hao said. You mean? Hearing Chen Hao's words, Yunfian was not discouraged. Instead, her charming eyes shone with excitement. She directly held Chen Hao's arm with both hands and said, "You can help little Wu and little Mo comprehend the energy of the 5 elements?" Aya. Dear junior brother, good junior brother, help senior sister, okay? And, little Qing also help. Cough cough. Chen Hao awkwardly coughed. Originally, the posture of the 2 was already very ambiguous. Now, Yunfian was so excited that she was almost sticking to Chen Hao's body. Letting Chen Hao's arm clearly feel the other party's full and bouncy breasts. Dongfang Jun stared at the 2 of them, full of envy and jealousy. This guy was a lecherous demon. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been interested on the first day Helian Wuzi appeared. But he didn't know that Dongfang Jian was also interested. It was just that Dongfang Jian was a senior disciple and was not in the same hall, so he rarely had the chance to get close. Yunfei Yan, on the other hand, was a mature and naturally seductive woman, so she was even more attractive to men. It was just that he was clear of Yunfian's identity and didn't dare to act recklessly. Otherwise, he would have used his face as his but to stick to her. Damn, why do all the beauties like this guy? Fuck, isn't it just a little awesome innate talent? How is he more handsome than me? Dongfang Jun glanced at Chen Hao with jealousy and turned his face away, so as to avoid being jealous. Out of sight, out of mind. The 2 of them looked like they were whispering sweet nothings to each other, which made his balls hurt. What made Dongfang Jun slightly surprised was that Dongfang Jian, who was also a lecherous demon, was in a daze at this moment, as if he didn't see Chen Hao and Yunfian being intimate. Just then, 4 figures appeared in front of the private room. An old man with a powerful aura was leading them, followed by 3 people. It was Yi Mingho from the Qian Kingdom and the other 2 disciples who were promoted to the rookie list. He's really lucky to be able to sit next to our Qian Kingdom. He's just a pauper. Can he bid for something good just by sitting in this position? It's just a small preliminary test, I want to see how far he can go. He better not meet me, otherwise, our Qian Kingdom's disciples who died can rest in peace. Ha! The other youth and Yi Mingho's overbearing voice floated into the ears of Chen Hao and Yunfian. Their eyes were filled with disdain as they glanced at Chen Hao without any hesitation. Enemies were bound to meet. When Chen Hao and the others met the Qian Kingdom's disciples, they would definitely kill them if they could. Similarly, when the Qian Kingdom met the Zhenyuan Kingdom, they would definitely kill them. And now, the Zhenyuan Kingdom had shocked the world with a single brilliant feat. Even their VIP private room was second only to the Qian Kingdom, on their left. And the Star Luo Kingdom's Yin Fenghan and the others were on Chen Hao's left. The Qian Kingdom and the Star Luo Kingdom were relatively stronger among the vassal kingdoms. They had a much deeper foundation than the Zhenyuan Kingdom. As time passed, more and more people arrived. After receiving Chen Hao's ambiguous answer, Yunfian didn't harp on that question, nor did she have the mood to harp on it. At this moment, the entire auction hall was filled with discussions. They were all discussing the treasures that might appear in this auction. There was quite a bit of useful information. Just as the auction was about to begin, the noisy hall suddenly quietened down and turned into soft discussions. So these are the top 10 super geniuses of the Empire's new show hall. What a valiant aura. Yeah, it's said that the geniuses of the various provinces and vassal kingdoms are very strong this time. But now it seems that there's still a huge gap. Of course. The Empire's new show hall will get at least 3 out of the 5 spots on the 100 Empire roll. It's even possible that they'll get all of them. It's said that the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall's chief disciple, Ni Jianping, broke through to martial ancestor a month ago. I didn't know if it was true or not, but looking at this aura now, I'm afraid it's true. I heard that too. Ni Jianping is the chief disciple of one of the 5 halls. Regardless of whether he's advanced to martial ancestor or not, he'll definitely get a spot. Second is the Azure Dragon Palace's chief disciple, Li Yifeng, whose strength is unfathomable. He'll definitely get a spot. As for the others, I'm not too sure. That's because you're ignorant. Don't underestimate the White Tiger Palace's chief disciple, Yang Fan. He's always kept a low profile and doesn't challenge anyone. That's why he's at the bottom of the 5 halls. But in terms of his true strength, I feel that even Li Yifeng can't compare to him. It can't be. What can't be? You definitely don't know that Li Yifeng has a good relationship with Yang Fan in private, right? With Li Yifeng's character, if Yang Fan didn't have enough strength, how could he be his friend? He'd have been trampled to death by him long ago, just like the Black Tortoise and Qilin Palace's chief disciples. The voices of discussion were very soft, but Chen Hao's abnormal hearing was able to capture the most valuable information from the crowd's discussion. In a moment, an old man led 10 young men and women past Chen Hao's private room. The first person walking behind the old man was dressed in snow-white clothes. His figure was tall and straight like a sword. He seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll, but if one were to carefully observe his posture and footsteps, they would realize that every step he took was exactly the same, without the slightest difference. Although he didn't release his aura, he gave off a majestic feeling, like a vast ocean, unfathomable. He had the demeanor of a great grandmaster. A martial ancestor realm expert. Chen Hao's eyes sparkled as he stared at the figure. He then looked at the second and fifth person. With his sharp soul perception and the voice of the treasure-hunting sword spirit, Chen Hao was certain that he had heard the information. Just as Chen Hao was looking at Yang Fan, what surprised Chen Hao was that this ordinary-looking young man with an obscure aura actually glanced at him and smiled faintly at him. With a swoosh. Chen Hao frowned slightly, feeling a little strange. Could it be that he knew him? In the Empire's new show hall, the leader and the top 10 disciples sat in the most central private room. Not long after, a melodious and impassioned zither music drifted over. The auction stage suddenly shone with a resplendent light, and traces of dense qi enveloped the entire auction hall. A mature woman with a myriad of bearings stepped on the zither music and slowly landed in the middle of the auction stage. The zither music abruptly stopped. This is my idol, the most famous auctioneer in the Xuanwu Empire. She can make buyers crazily fork out money. If the same item is auctioned by her, the price will be raised by at least 30%. Moreover, the buyers will feel that it is worth it. Yunfian said softly to Chen Hao. Why do I feel that you look very similar to her? Chen Hao said softly. How could that be? She is much prettier than me and has more charm. Yunfian said. In 10 or 15 years, you will be exactly the same as her, Chen Hao said in an extremely confident tone. What nonsense. I only look a little like her. Yunfian retorted. Chen Hao faintly smiled and didn't say anything else. Carving all things was to capture the trajectory of all things in the world. Only by truly seeing the trajectory of life could one carve any person or object. Yunfian and the woman on the auction stage were a type of evolution of life in his eyes. From the young Yunfian to the older woman, Qinhao actually couldn't find any flaws. Welcome everyone to the Xuanwu auction house. This is the most grand auction held by the Xuanwu auction house every 2 years. Shuya is honored to host this auction again. Many of you here are elites on the new talent role, as well as true experts who may advance to the 100 Empire role. Therefore, Shuya hopes that we will have a chance to work together in the future. P.S. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. There is a third update. Thank you. To be continued. Chapter 123. Third update, looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you, everyone. The beautiful auctioneer was just like her name, Shuya. Her warm voice made people feel comfortable, and her perfect expression was elegant and moving. Alright, I believe everyone can't wait any longer. The auction will officially begin. Following Shuya's voice, a valiant young girl in a tight outfit held a sword that emitted an ancient aura. The scabbard was exquisite and carved with fine runes. Everyone's gaze was immediately attracted to it. Clang! The young girl unsheathed the sword and a red light flashed. A strong murderous aura pervaded the air. This is the first item of this auction, the Scarlet Blood Sword, a low-grade spirit weapon. It was obtained from a certain ruin a year ago. Even after a long time, it still can't conceal its strong murderous aura. It can cut through iron like mud and is incomparably sharp. I believe that everyone has their own value in mind. The starting price is 5,000 grade, 8 spirit pills. Each increment must be no less than 100 pills. Shuya's gaze swept across the crowd as she introduced. At the same time as Shuya's introduction, the valiant young girl had already begun to wield her sword on the auction stage. The blood-red light flickered and the murderous aura became even stronger. Moreover, the young girl's sword technique was swift, violent, and direct. It clearly contrasted well with the murderous aura of the Scarlet Blood Sword. This caused the hearts of countless people in the auction house to sway. Especially the cultivators with cold and emotionless personalities who had strong murderous auras, their gazes were burning. However, the people in the ordinary seats were obviously unable to do so. A spirit weapon wasn't something they could afford. Just the starting price alone was enough to make 80% of the people stare. Without a doubt, this was something for the new talent list disciples to compete for. The standard of this auction is so high. The first item is already a low-grade spirit weapon. Qinhao glanced at Yunfian, who didn't seem to have any reaction, and asked. The first item naturally has to be taken out. This is considered a small finale. How many spirit weapons do you think there are? So it's like this. I was just saying. 100. A cold voice came from one of the VIP rooms. Damn, why is it this kind of spirit weapon? If I take it, won't I scare away all the beauties? Senior Sister Yun, there should be more spirit artifacts behind, right? Dongfang Jun was obviously very envious, but his words made it clear that he was only envious of the spirit tool, and not this kind of spirit tool that was filled with killing intent. Yes. At the very least, there would be a dozen or so more. The further it went, the higher the price would be. It would take at least 10,000 level 8 spiritual pills to win the bid. How many spirit pills do you have? Plus the 20,000 points you have. Dongfang Jun said. 6,000. Someone in another private room directly raised the bid to 6,000. Following that, the price continued to rise. Soon, it reached the 10,000 that Yunfian had mentioned. At this moment, only 2 bidders were left. Both of them sounded as if they were determined to win, but now, the bidding had slowed down. It was obvious that they had reached their limits. However, under Shuya's bewitching voice, the price still rose bit by bit. Finally, it was won by one of them at the price of 12,000. After the first spirit artifact, Just as Yunfei Yan had said, although the items being auctioned were all good, the difference in price between them and a spirit artifact was not small. Pills with special effects, precious refining materials, top-grade treasure artifacts, protective gear, and so on, these things were basically being auctioned by ordinary people. All of the VIP seats were obviously here for the spirit tool. When the 16th item had just been brought to the auction stage by a young female attendant, before the auctioneer, Shuya, introduced it, Chen Hao, who had been lacking interest, suddenly felt a strong fluctuation in his mind. Good stuff. Chen Hao, bid for it. The treasure-hunting sword spirit's slightly excited voice sounded. A white jade box was placed on the golden tray. It was 1 square foot in size. The treasure had not appeared yet, but the treasure-hunting sword spirit's abnormal sensing ability already knew what was inside the box. The 16th item, Purple Crystal Jade. Oregon Purple Crystal Jade has the effect of condensing the spirit energy of heaven and earth and calming the heart. It is very rare. The aura of this ore is obviously very likely to contain Purple Crystal Jade. The starting price is 100 level 8 spirit pills. If you are lucky and there really is Purple Crystal Jade, even a small piece will be worth tens or hundreds of times more. If you carve it into a favorite accessory and carry it with you, it will be very useful during cultivation. The short-term effect may not be obvious, but if it is worn by a junior from a young age, the effect will be huge. It is suitable for both warriors and practitioners. I believe everyone is clear about it, so I won't say more. Let's start the auction. Not bad, not bad. Although I don't know if there is Purple Crystal Jade, this item is for old man to try his luck. If there is, he will give it to his granddaughter as a gift. Ha! I bid 150. An old man in the ordinary seats suddenly said with great interest. Oh, old man Mu, I also want to try my luck and give it to my granddaughter. Don't blame me. Ha! I bid 180. 200. Another old man immediately called out. This price was simply incomparable to the Scarlet Blood Sword. But those who could bid for spirit weapons were not individuals, but the kingdoms, provinces, and empires behind them. Otherwise, even a top family like Dongfang Jun would have to spend a lot of money to be able to afford it. Although the price of this Purple Crystal Jade ore was only 200, it was not a small number. Otherwise, the Xuanwu Empire's reward for Chen Hao and the others would not only be 100 level 8 spirit pills. Adding the level 7 and level 6 spirit pills, the total value was 300 level 8 spirit pills. How can Purple Crystal Jade be so easy to come by? You are really rich. Junior brother, are you interested? Yunfian suddenly noticed that Chen Hao's gaze was fixed on the Purple Crystal Jade ore and was very eager. She immediately asked in surprise. A little. I like carving, and this thing seems to be very suitable. Chen Hao said vaguely and was not in a hurry to bid. Save it. The 10,000 spirit pills given to you are not for you to waste. Don't think that a few hundred is a small number. This is something that a small family can't take out even if they sell all their assets, Yunfian said. 600. At this moment, old man Mu, who had started bidding, offered again and directly tripled the price. He looked as if he was determined to win. Damn it, old man Mu, do you really think there is Purple Crystal Jade here? I'll let you go, take this useless stone home. Another old man who offered 200 said angrily. I have a lot of money, I'm willing, haha. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Elder Mu is an expert in this field. This makes Shuya even more convinced that this ore contains Purple Crystal Jade, haha. Shuya, is that enough? It's 600. No matter how nicely you make it sound, it's just an ore. Purple Crystal Jade is the origin, and even the gods cannot see through it. It's completely based on luck. I'm so forthright because I'm happy to gamble. Even if there is Purple Crystal Jade, I won't be able to earn much at this price. Old man Mu said immediately. Elder Mu is right, 600 going once. 601. At this moment, Chen Hao knew that if he didn't bid, it would definitely be won by the old man. Old man Mu was slightly surprised. What was the young disciple in the VIP seats competing with him for? 602. Before old man Mu could speak, a voice as sharp as a rooster's came from the room beside Chen Hao's. That voice was full of provocation. Fuck, are they all crazy? Old man Mu was depressed. He did feel that this purple crystal jade ore was very likely to contain purple crystal jade. Otherwise, it wouldn't have increased the price to 600 so easily. This was the keen intuition that he had developed after wearing the purple crystal jade for many years. 700. Old man Mu increased the price. After a short silence, Chen Hao saw that the eunuch next door didn't say anything, so he could only bid again. 800. The eunuch said again. Ha, interesting, 1000. At this moment, Yi Mingho, who was in the box to the right of Chen Hao, also bid. Fuck, a bunch of little lunatics. Old man Mu doesn't want to play anymore. Old man Mu sat down gloomily. Box 6, Disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom, 1000 going once. Box 7, Jinyuan Kingdom, Box 8, Star Luo Kingdom, Don't Lose Out, 1000 going twice. The rooster's voice still didn't make a sound. Chen Hao's expression became a little awkward, but he could only bite the bullet and say, 1100. Junior brother, senior sister doesn't want it anymore. It's not worth it to buy it and give it to senior sister. Let them fight over it, don't bid anymore. Yunfian was still in a daze when the price was almost doubled by Yin Fenghan and Yi Mingho, who were obviously targeting Chen Hao on the left and right. Astute as she was, she immediately lowered the price and said deliberately. As she spoke, she winked at Chen Hao. Oh, then let the two idiots fight over it. I won't bid. Chen Hao also lowered his voice and said. Both of them knew that if they spoke too loudly, they would be discovered by the other party. But if they deliberately lowered their voice, that might not be the case. 1100, going once, Box 6 and Box 8, bid quickly, 1200. It's only a little over 1,000 pills, this crown prince doesn't put it in my eyes. Ha! The eunuch's ears twitched, but he didn't increase the price. Although he felt that it might be a scam, if Chen Hao really didn't bid, he would be a fool. But Yi Mingho was full of disdain and said in a rich and overbearing manner. It couldn't be helped that the other party had a lot of pills. Who cared if he really didn't bid, this was something that he liked. If he wanted to get it, he had to surpass this crown prince's tolerance. Otherwise, don't even think about it. Hearing Yi Mingho's words, Yunfian immediately frowned, while Chen Hao's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. Bid, it's worth it. As long as you get it, it's definitely worth it. The treasure-hunting sword spirit said again. Don't ask for it. Even if there really is a purple crystal jade, it wouldn't be worth this much. It's better to just buy a small piece of purple crystal jade. Yunfian said in a condensed voice. But Chen Hao shook his head. When Shuya shouted a second time, he directly bid, 1300. Ha! Determined to get it? Interesting, 2000. When Yi Mingho saw Chen Hao bid again, he was instantly excited and arrogantly shouted, directly raising the price by 700. The entire auction hall was in an uproar. Damn, this is crazy. 2000 is enough to buy a good piece of purple crystal jade. Although this raw stone looked good, it was completely not worth this price. This was no longer a bid, but a targeted suppression and revenge. P.S. Those who still have monthly votes and recommendation votes, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you very much. The results of my new book require everyone's support. Please. Chapter 124. Can I cast a monthly vote? I only have one poor vote today. Please, everyone. If you don't have a monthly vote, please cast a free recommendation vote for Wushan. Thank you. Also, thank you to the fallen son of heaven for his 50,000 Chidian coins to be promoted to sect leader of Ao Tian. Thank you to third young master Wei for his 10,000 Chidian coins to be promoted to branch leader of Ao Tian. Thank you. What the fuck? Chen Hao, what do you want that rotten stone for? Let that idiot carry it back. The arrogant Dongfang Jun couldn't help but clamor, not bothering to hide his voice. Junior brother, don't ask for it, Yunfian also said. What's the rush? 3,000. To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao's figure actually said very calmly. Haha. Do you really think I'm an idiot? 3,000 level 8 spirit pills for a rotten stone, what an idiot. After hearing Chen Hao's words, Yi Mingho secretly speculated that Chen Hao must have deliberately provoked him by directly raising the price by 1,000. As long as he bid, Chen Hao would definitely shrink back. 3,000 spirit pills was not a small sum to him. If he really wanted to buy it to vent his anger, the price would be too high. If Chen Hao bought it at this price, that guy would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood, right? 3,000 going once. Going twice, is there anyone else who wants to bid? Only an idiot would bid, hee hee. A rooster-like voice sounded. Clearly, Yi Mingho's words made him feel very good. 3,000 going thrice, sold. Congratulations to the disciple of the Zhenyuan Kingdom in Box 7, Chen Hao, right? Please come up to the stage to trade. The smile on Shu Ya's face didn't change at all. Although the price had exceeded her expectations by several times, she had seen many cases of genius disciples deliberately targeting and maliciously raising prices. 3,000 spirit pills. Just like that, go and take it. These are 3 level 8 spirit pill tickets for 1,000 spirit pills. Yunfian said rather angrily. Although she blamed Chen Hao for being immature, she hated Yi Mingho for maliciously raising the price. That's not necessarily true. What surprised Yunfian, Dongfang Jun and Dongfang Jian was that Chen Hao actually smiled slightly and said, my intuition has always been very accurate, just wait and see that idiot vomit blood. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he took the elixir ticket from Yunfian's hand. Then, he slowly rose into the air and landed on the arena under everyone's sympathetic, pitiful, and idiotic gazes. Can I cut it open here? If it's just a rotten rock, I'm too lazy to take it. Chen Hao didn't pay any attention to the gazes of the crowd as he spoke with a faint smile. He handed the pill ticket to the young female attendant as he spoke. Of course. Shuya smiled faintly and said, I believe everyone is as curious as Shuya. Little brother Chen Hao, do you need our stone-cutting expert? No need. Chen Hao said straightforwardly. Hey, little brother Chen Hao, this raw stone might really contain purple crystal jade. Old man reminds you, don't damage it. It's better if you give it to the expert. Otherwise, you'll really suffer a huge loss. Old man Mu, who was sitting near the front of the normal branch, reminded loudly. Thank you for your reminder, senior. I've loved carving since I was young. I can be considered half an expert. Chen Hao said with a faint smile. His handsome face shone with a hint of pride. As he spoke, he took the raw stone from the young female attendant's hand. A cold light appeared in his hand. Chen Hao stared at the raw stone and the aura around him suddenly changed. Old man Mu and many other stone gambling and carving experts present revealed a surprised expression when they sensed Chen Hao's aura. Even Shuya and Yunfian were slightly dumbfounded. This kind of aura could only be possessed by a true master of carving. What's there to be surprised about? Dongfang Jian and I have seen Chen Hao's carving skills. He's definitely a top expert. Cough cough, maybe this stone isn't simple. Dongfang Jun said with a glimmer of anticipation in his eyes. You've seen him before? Yunfian asked in surprise. Yes. Yesterday, when the hall master and the others called us to talk about something, he showed a little of his skills. He carved a lifelike person in a few seconds. However, the material was wood. Dongfang Jun said. Hiss hiss. At this moment, after staring at the raw stone for nearly half a minute, the knife in Chenhao's hand moved. There was no fluctuation of energy. There was only the flickering of the knife. However, the hard raw stone in his hand seemed to have turned into tofu. It spun rapidly in Chenhao's left hand and stone chips flew everywhere. Gradually, faint purple crystal lights began to flash faintly. Ah! There really is purple crystal jade. What a powerful knife technique. Old Man Mu was the first to exclaim. Ha! How big can purple crystal jade be? 3,000 8th grade elixirs are enough to buy a few accessories. An idiot will always be an idiot. How dare he embarrass himself on the stage? Half-a. Yi Mingho said disdainfully. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by the exclamations of the crowd. Ah! No way. It's so big. A strong purple crystal light shone at this moment. The raw stone was still spinning rapidly in Chenhao's hand and the knife light did not stop. In the eyes of the crowd, the outer layer of the raw stone had been completely peeled off. At this moment, as it spun, it looked like an irregular purple crystal jade ball with a diameter of more than half a foot. This. Shuya, Yunfian and the others also widened their eyes in shock. Although they could not see its original appearance clearly, such a volume of purple crystal jade could be made into hundreds of purple crystal jade accessories. If the carving skills were top-notch, how much could it be sold for? This was a luxury item. At this moment, Chenhao suddenly stopped. The spinning purple crystal jade also appeared clearly in the eyes of the crowd. Instantly, there was a burst of gasps. Yi Mingho and Yin Fenghan's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Especially Yi Mingho, he even had the urge to vomit blood. How much was this worth? 3,000? Damn it, even 30,000 wouldn't be enough to buy it. But just as the crowd was shocked beyond words, Chenhao's calm eyes, which were exuding a strange aura, twisted slightly. In an instant, the knife light flashed again. This time, there were no purple crystal jade fragments. But after a moment, the huge purple crystal jade was strangely cut into several oddly shaped and irregular pieces. Such a simple action made Old Man Mu and the other experts cry out in surprise. Chenhao could peel off the outer layer of the purple crystal jade raw stone like cutting tofu. Although he was powerful, it was not surprising. However, this was purple crystal jade, which was incomparably hard. It required an incomparably sharp treasured knife that could cut through iron as if it were mud. Moreover, it also required energy to slowly carve and sculpt it meticulously. However, Chenhao was still cutting it like it was tofu. This not only shocked the experts, but also the experts present. Their eyes widened in horror. After cutting it into several pieces, Chenhao only picked out a medium-sized piece and threw the rest into the storage ring. As for this piece of purple crystal jade, under the saber light of Chenhao, extremely tiny fragments floated up. The amount of wasted material was absolutely negligible. Gradually, a lifelike figure appeared before everyone's eyes. His feet stepped on auspicious clouds, and he had the demeanor of a transcendent being. The disciples of the Empire's new show hall, as well as all the important figures who had seen this figure, suddenly cried out in surprise. The figure that Chenhao had carved was Mu Qing, the hall master of the Empire's new show hall, the imperial protector, and the #1 expert of the Empire. His expression and aura were exactly the same. Chief Steward Shuya, this junior admires Senior Mu from the bottom of his heart. So, this junior decided to carve this purple crystal jade for Senior Mu. But, I don't dare to take it for myself. So, I presume that there are many admirers of Senior Mu in this place. So, why don't we auction it off, and let the people who truly admire Senior Mu obtain it? Chenhao gazed at Shuya, and said in a calm manner. Shuya's eyes suddenly lit up. She stared deeply at Chenhao and said, "Of course you can. Senior Mu Qing is the #1 expert of the Empire. He's a senior that we cultivators all admire. And this sculpture of yours is simply a work of the gods. It actually contains Senior Mu's aura. Just this aura alone gives Shuya a feeling of enlightenment. It's too magical. It's best to start the auction now. I need the pills, Chinhao said with a faint smile. He held the sculpture with both hands and handed it over to Shuya. No problem. Thank you. After Chinhao finished speaking, he floated up in front of the stunned crowd. His eyes flashed with a touch of strong disdain, coldness, and arrogance. He glanced at the ashen-faced Yi Mingho and the damned eunuch Yin Fenghan, who were gnashing their teeth. Then, he slowly landed in his box. This is a special auction. Shuya explained the auction on the spot for everyone and set the starting price. Just based on the volume and quality of this purple crystal jade, its value is enough to reach 2000 level 8 pure yang pills. However, as everyone knows, purple crystal jade pendants are luxury goods. In addition to the volume and quality, the carving skill is also very important. It has a great collection value. The same purple crystal jade can have several times or even 10 times the price in the hands of different carving masters. And little brother Chinhao of the Jinyuan Kingdom's carving skill, I think, this is the best that Shuya has ever seen. This point, many of the experts present shouldn't deny it, right? Absolutely. Old Man has seen countless carving masters, but none of them can reach little brother Chinhao's level. Old Man Mu said excitedly. At the same time, many people responded. Shuya smiled and continued, so, according to the calculation of 3 times, the starting price can be set at least 6,000. There's another point that Shuya believes is not her illusion. This sculpture does contain Senior Mu's aura, and it feels as if it is one with heaven and earth. Moreover, Senior Mu is a leading figure in the cultivation world of our Xuanwu Empire. Therefore, the starting price is set at 10,000 level 8 elixirs. Each increment must not be less than 1,000. The bidding starts now, and the highest bidder gets it. 11,000. Old Man Mu was the first to call out excitedly. For him, 11,000 yuan was already at the point of bleeding a lot. But he knew that the value of this sculpture could definitely be multiplied several times. This was only a temporary auction, not now. If it was carried out after some publicity, it would definitely be sold at a sky-high price. 15,000. As soon as Old Man Mu's voice fell, a faint voice came from a box near the center of the VIP seats. It was obviously the old man who led the team from the Empire's new show hall. 20,000. Just as everyone was surprised, a voice came from the 3 golden boxes in the center of the VIP seats, which were obviously different from the other VIP seats. Ah, the Shui family, one of the 3 top families in the Empire, has made a move, 20,000. The old man from the Empire's new show hall bid again. 25,000. Before the Shui family bid, another old man's voice came from another golden box. Everyone couldn't help but marvel at the wealth of the top forces. Old Man Mu could only stare and sit down gloomily. Although he knew that he would definitely make a profit, he couldn't afford to sell everything he had. Fuck. Chinhao, you're so lucky, you're rich. Dongfang Jun looked at Chinhao in a daze, as if he had completely forgotten the conflict between him and Chinhao. P.S. Please finish reading and check if you still have any monthly votes or recommendation votes. Please support Wushan. Thank you. Wushan will continue to work hard. Please. Chapter 125. Second update, looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you very much. Monthly votes for new books are very important to Wushan. I sincerely hope that my friends who support Proud Heaven can help Wushan. Thank you. Very quickly, the 3 old men in the golden box frantically raised the price of the statue to 50,000 level 8 spirit pills, refusing to give in to each other. As expected of one of the top 3 clans. It's just a luxury item, and so many spirit pills are enough to buy a decent spirit weapon. Many people in the crowd said enviously. 50,000 spirit pills was enough to defeat all the wealth of many clans present. However, the three old men who had their own private boxes in the Xuanwu auction hall were still as calm as ever. They're rich, but it's too wasteful. How many disciples can they cultivate with 50,000 level 8 spirit pills? This thing is good, but it's just for decoration. I really don't understand these rich people. That's because you don't understand. If I had their wealth, I'd definitely bid for it too. What a pity. An old man in the ordinary seats shook his head and sighed. 55,000. The old man in the golden box on the left raised the price again when Shuya was about to call out the third time. This time, he raised the price by 5,000. Brother Yang, it looks like you're determined to get it. The old man in the middle box suddenly said. It's not that I'm determined to get it. This purple crystal jade statue is only worth about 50,000 to 60,000. I think it's worth it, the old man in the golden box on the left said indifferently. This box belonged to one of the top clans in the capital, the Yang clan. Yang Fan, the seemingly ordinary but extremely talented young man, was a disciple of the Yang clan. I think so too. Forget it, I won't compete with you. That young man still has a few purple crystal jades. I'll discuss with him privately and carve one for him. It's not bad. Ha, the old man in the middle box said. Good idea. Why didn't I think of that? Ha. Brother Yang, this is yours, the old man in the right box said with a laugh. Thank you, Brother Li and Brother I. In the end, the statue was sold for 55,000 spirit pills. After deducting the 2% commission from the auction hall, Chen Hao easily obtained 53,900 level 8 spirit pills. Even Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded. He did not expect such a high price. Even a fraction of the price was more than the cost. What's more, the statue only used one of the pieces. And from the words of the two old men just now, it was obvious that they wanted to find him in private. Wouldn't he be able to earn another fortune? At the same time, the words of the two old men also reminded Old Man Mu and a few others of their own. They all rubbed their hands together, eager to give it a try. Dear junior brother. Yunfian's eyes shone as she watched the young female attendant pass the pill ticket to Chen Hao. She immediately hugged Chen Hao's arm intimately and said with excitement and charm, "Why didn't you tell senior sister earlier that you had this unique skill? It's not a secret. Xiao Wu, Molly already knows. Even the two of them know. Then find a small piece of the remaining purple crystal jade and carve a jade pendant. Carve senior sister's appearance on it and sell it to senior sister, okay? It's a little cheaper, senior sister is poor. Alright. I'll take the 500 pills you gave me as payment. The condition is that you let go of me first, okay? You're still afraid that senior sister will eat you? Really, senior sister is such a beauty and you still dislike her. Look at Dongfang Jun, his saliva is flowing out. Hee hee. Damn. Dongfang Jun suddenly wiped his mouth and said, I'm not doing this because of you. Chen Hao, 1,000 pills, help me carve one too. Are you dreaming? Chen Hao glared at Dongfang Jun and said. That's right, junior brother doesn't care about what you did to Xiao Wu and Molly. He's already giving you enough face. Yunfian said. Cough cough, I, Dongfang Jun, am this kind of person, bullying the weak and not afraid of the strong. You were so weak before, I could trample you to death. Now that you're strong, you can take revenge if you want, I'll take it. Do you think I'm afraid of you? But, anyway, the three of you are fine and haven't formed a life and death feud. I want to write it off. At most, I'll apologize to Helian Wuzi and Moue. You're really a villain, I won't bother with you for the time being. Chen Hao said. Then 1,000 pills, none for you. Chen Hao directly refused. He was also quite speechless towards this Dongfang Jun. Chen Hao was clear that if he, Helian Wuzi and Moui were still as weak as before, it would not be strange at all for them to be suppressed to death by this guy. This kind of person was a typical playboy disciple. But now, seeing that the three of them had risen, especially himself, he directly laid his cards on the table and compromised. And he said it very frankly, "You were weak before, so I bullied you. Now that you're strong, I can't bully you, so naturally I won't bully you. Of course, if you want revenge, then come, I'll still accompany you." Firstly, one doesn't hit a smiling person. Secondly, Dongfang Jun was not outwardly complying. Thirdly, if he really wanted revenge, Dongfang Jun was not so easy to provoke, especially with the Dongfang family and Dongfang Ting behind him. Fourthly, although Helian Wuzi and Moui had suffered, they did not really suffer any real harm. Instead, it became a kind of training. After thinking over and over again, Chen Hao still gave up on revenge. Giving up was giving up, but it was obviously impossible to make friends with him. At least, Chen Hao did not have such plans. After the climax of the auction was caused by Chen Hao, the enthusiasm did not decrease in the slightest. The next few auction items were able to incite exciting bids. When it came to the 20th item, it was finally a spiritual weapon. Golden silkworm soft armor. A beautiful girl was wearing it, emitting a faint golden light. It looked elegant and exquisite. The neckline was very high, protecting the girl's slender neck. Her heart and other key parts were covered with mysterious and dense runes. In the center of the runes was an array core that was emitting a powerful aura. It was a combination of a demon beast's inner core and a crystal. As the young girl poured her essence energy into it, that resplendent light instantly rose up, and waves of valiant aura were emitted. Everyone could sense that this young girl was only a martial emperor. But now, just the aura emitted by the soft armor made the martial emperor experts feel that they could not break through its defense. Good stuff, amazing. With this soft armor, how many times can her battle strength increase? Don't think about it, this is prepared for the genius disciples in the VIP box. We can only look and broaden our horizons. It must be a spiritual weapon. Before Shuya could introduce it, the crowd burst into exclamations and discussions. The genius disciples in the VIP box were also excited. Golden silkworm soft armor, as its name implies, is made of the extremely rare golden silkworm soft armor. After recognizing its master, it can change its size and shape according to one's wishes. The important parts of the armor are made of level 9 monstrous beasts' cores and profound crystals. Only a small amount of energy needs to be poured in to create a powerful defense. It is even more powerful than a rank 9 martial emperor's protective aura. With such a soft armor, how much can one's battle strength increase? It varies from person to person. However, for an opponent with the same battle strength, with this armor, one can save a large portion of the energy needed to defend. It can allow one's aura to last longer and become the key to victory. Alright, I believe that the experts here know better than Shuya. The starting price is 10,000 pills. Each bid must not be less than 100 pills. Begin. As soon as Shuya's words fell, some of the more powerful kingdoms and provinces began to bid. Even Dongfang Jun joined the ranks. Soon, the price soared to 15,000. Dongfang Jun was still unwilling to give up and continued to bid. Dongfang Jun, you only have 20,000 pills. If you buy this, you won't be able to buy anything else. Yunfian reminded. I know. I never planned to buy an offensive spirit artifact. This defensive spirit artifact is just right. Didn't you hear the introduction just now? I can change the style as I wish. Hee hee. I will definitely look cool wearing it. Offensive spirit artifact. Before the rookie competition starts, my aunt will arrive. Hee hee. Don't say that I have a good aunt, I do. Hee hee. Dongfang Jian said smugly. Especially when he said the word aunt, his eyes were not only filled with pride, there was also endless worship. 18,000. Who dares to fight with me? I, Dongfang Jun, will definitely take it. Dongfang Jun's voice was always arrogant and despotic. Even though there were as many experts as the clouds and any one of them could be several times stronger than his Dongfang family, this guy was still like this. 19,000. Eunuch Yin Feng Han, who was already unable to endure, bid with a rooster voice filled with disdain. The instant the armor appeared, Yin Feng Han was already excited. Yesterday's battle with Chen Hao was extremely dangerous. At all times, Yin Feng Han was on guard against Chen Hao's flying blade, and had always activated his protective aura to its limit. In the end, if not for Mu Qing's appearance to end the match, he would not have been able to obtain victory. Because at that moment, he had already reached his limit. An inch of distance, just like Yang Fan had said, was so close yet so far. If he were to meet Chen Hao, he would still not have the slightest chance of winning. But now, with this golden silkworm soft armor, he had 100% chance of winning. 20,000. Dongfang Jun immediately bid, and after he finished, he cursed in a low voice, "Motherfucker, if this damn eunuch really wants to compete with me, I don't have enough pills. Dongfang Jian, can you lend it to me? I'll return it to you when my aunt comes. In any case, you won't be able to buy a spirit artifact with 10,000 pills. If my aunt has an extra one, I'll give you one." Ever since he started bickering with Dongfang Jun at the auction, he had not spoken a single word. Hearing Dongfang Jun's words, Dongfang Jian hesitated for a moment, then looked at Dongfang Jun and said, "You really don't want to compete with me for the patriarch's position? I, Dongfang Jun, am a dragon among men. Sooner or later, I will soar into the 9 heavens, just like my aunt. How can the small Zhenyuan kingdom be my, Dongfang Jun's, destination? Are you going to lend it to me? I can lend it to you. Call me big brother. Fuck. It's not a deal. Don't say that I'm petty. If you were to change places with me, you would definitely be more ruthless than me. Now that we've talked about it, the past will be written off. With me, Dongfang Jian, the Dongfang family will prosper forever. Motherfucker. 23,000. Dongfang Jun cursed as he hurriedly bid when Shuya called out for the second time. He then looked at Dongfang Jian with a face full of unwillingness, and with a voice as soft as a mosquito, he vaguely called out, "Brother." Even with Chen Hao's abnormal hearing, he couldn't hear clearly whether this guy called him brother, scram, or fuck off, but Dongfang Jian smiled proudly, and said, "I'll lend it to you. Damn eunuch, come, come, come. Bring it on. Continue bidding. I, Dongfang Jun, will accompany you to the end." Dongfang Jun immediately said arrogantly. In his complacency, he called out the damn eunuch in front of countless people. Second update. Wushan will continue to write the third update. Please vote for Wushan, thank you. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.